Mentorship, I think it's very, very important. It was painful to like reject my dream school. I had applied to Rhodes, where I was a finalist. So I applied to MasterCard, I applied to Gates, Cambridge, and I got invited to interview. The interview didn't start well in my head, but towards the end of the interview, I started to feel like they were really excited when I was talking about other things I had done. So, and then I started feeling like, okay, this might be possible. And so when I got in, I was so excited. And a month later, I also got MasterCard Cambridge. And then a month later, I got MasterCard Fox at Oxford. So then I was now faced with three choices to make.
Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time of seeing these beautiful faces, please don't make it your last by clicking on the subscribe button and giving this video a huge thumbs up if you end up finding it useful. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Today's video is a part of a series on this channel called the Nigerian in Cambridge series. And on this series, I'll be bringing guests from the University of Cambridge to share their strategies for landing fully funded scholarships. Today's guest is a Gate Cambridge scholar and a Rhodes Scholarship finalist, as well as a dual admit to both Oxford and Cambridge. Give it up for Kamsi Moka.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here, Kamsi.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that intro I did not do enough justice to you. So for people that don't know who you are, can you give us a brief intro as to who Kamsi is?
Hi everyone, my name is Kamsi, and like you mentioned, I'm a Gates Cambridge scholar. So I'm doing an MPhil in medical science at the Cancer Research UK Cambridge Institute. So I'm basically researching on immune cells and how they interact with cancer and how we can target the immune cells for therapies to treat cancer. And I'm from Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, obviously, I'm from Nigeria, and I'm from Eastern Nigeria.
I love that. I mean, you really embody the title, which is Nigerian in Cambridge. And I think this is going to be a fun conversation. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So I know that you grew up in Nigeria and you were the best graduating student at the University of Calabar, which is a huge accomplishment. And I know you've also worked as a clinical research assistant in Nigeria. So I'd like to start with understanding more about your background and the role that education played in your life, so I can understand the driving forces that shape the Kamsi that we see today.
Okay, so I'm from a small family. Okay, here when I tell people I'm from a small family and they ask me how many, and then I say I'm like, we're like 4 kids and 2 parents. They're like, oh, that's so small. That's a huge family. But in Nigeria, it's a small family. So yeah, I'm from a small family by Nigerian standards. I have 3 siblings and then 2 parents, and my parents are both graduates, so they understood the value of education.
Yeah.
So my mom comes from a family of teachers. Her parents were teachers. Her dad was a principal, and of course, growing up as a teacher's daughter, my mom also was a teacher. She's still a teacher. She has like a primary school. So I was very, very, I was made to like understand what education was and the impact it could have on me as a person. So from when I was little, my mom was always my lesson teacher up until I got to senior school. So we would always have first lessons. It was really annoying because everything was timetabled. I grew up in a home where there was timetable for everything. There was timetable to sleep. There was timetable to eat. Till now, I still remember the timetable we use for food in the house. It's that bad. Okay, now I understand better as an adult. Everything was structured. We knew when to play. We knew when not to play. We had lessons. We knew when to read and when not to read. So I've always been very interested in books. From primary school, I was topping my class, and then I got double promoted in primary school, and there was the issue of whether or not I should go to secondary school because at the time I was just 8, and my daddy felt I was too young, but my mom was like, "Oh, leave her, she's okay." And my headmistress then felt like I was okay to go ahead. So then I started secondary school. I was topping my class at a junior. I started in a private school, topping my class, and then my mom felt that she didn't see me read at home. So she's like, how are you topping your class when you're always playing? That school is not good. I'm going to change you. and she was teaching in
Nigerian
the school
parents.
at the
Yeah.
time, so she was like, oh, that she thinks it's because she's in the school, maybe they're
Yeah.
just passing me. And I need to go to where there's competition because I was
Yeah.
always top in the class. And then I went to a government school where there was competition,
Mm.
and I still performed. Of course, it's senior
Yeah.
school, there was no grades, we didn't have first, second, but
Yeah.
I was always at
One of
least
the
in the
best.
first
Yeah.
three in the class. And then I gained admission into university immediately. And there was also the concern that I was really young. So I was 15 at the time, which was quite abnormal. And then they're like, oh, she's still young, whether I should take another jam. I was okay with taking another jam because I wanted to study medicine and surgery like
Okay.
every perceived smart science
Yeah.
student. And then I got medical lab science. I didn't get
Okay.
medicine and surgery in my first trial. So I wanted to wait another year.
And
But my
try
mom was
again.
like, oh no, the course is really good. Medical
Yeah.
lab science is really good. She has a friend as a scientist that was really doing well at the time. So she really wanted me to do that course.
Yeah.
So I went ahead, and that's how I started the program I was doing. And of course, that hunger for excellence continued because I had been conditioned in my head to want to be the best. So
Yeah.
I started doing all I could to graduate with a first class.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much what fueled all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from having parents that were passionate about
About
education.
education.
At the time, I thought my mom was very strict. Yeah, because she was strict. Not I thought she was actually strict. Anybody
Yeah.
that went to the secondary school I went to knows my mom is strict. So they would always hear Mrs. Walker, and then everybody's
Yeah.
running like Mrs. Walker is coming, Mrs. Walker is coming, and
Uh-huh.
I would also run with them. And they're like, "Why are you running? She's your mother." I'm like, "You don't understand."
You probably be the first scapegoat.
I was always the scapegoat. My mom
Uh-huh.
would flog maybe if she was
Uh-huh.
hitting other children in the class, then she may flog them 3 strokes of the cane for not doing the assignments. But for
Yeah.
me, it was uncountable. She would
Yeah.
just flog me however she wants to flog me. So yeah, my mom, I was very strict. I grew up with a strict mother.
Yeah.
Now I look at her and I'm like, where did all that strictness go to? Because
I know, right?
yeah,
It's
it was
like
just
they've
me.
relaxed now.
Everybody's relaxed now and chill. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah. I can relate to a bit of that. I was kind of like an average student up until primary three when I now decided to wake up and become more serious about my
Yeah.
academics. Yeah, that's really inspiring to hear as well. What do you think made you want to go into the medical field? Was there anybody you looked up to when you were younger that inspired you to go into the medical field?
Yeah.
And did you ever like have a phase of hemophobia, which is like fear of blood? Because there were a lot of people growing up that were
Yeah.
quite scared of blood, and that kind of discouraged them from going into the medical field. But what was your story? Like, what inspired you?
Okay, so my paternal side,
Mm-hmm.
they they would describe my paternal side, like people from my village would describe my paternal family as very educated, people that like to go to school.
Yeah.
So I grew up with cousins that were studying medicine and surgery. And my
Okay.
favorite cousin at the time, who was like my mentor, I had wanted to be like him. And so he was a medical student at the time. So I wanted to be like him. Because
Yeah.
and then I think that was like the greatest influence, aside from the societal expectations of smart
Yeah.
people. So then people would always assume, oh, because you stop in our class, you should do medicine and surgery,
Yeah.
which I think is very wrong. Because now the reason I wanted to do medicine and surgery was not exactly because I loved it or I wanted to, of course, to say I want to save lives. Everybody likes the idea of saving lives, but
Yeah.
I didn't choose, I didn't want to do medicine and surgery because I saw that I wanted to save lives through medicine and surgery. And it was because I wanted to save lives. I like the idea.
Yeah.
And then I had cousins
Towards the
that
same
was
path.
also doing that path.
Yeah.
And again, there was like the expectations, oh, you're smart, so you should do medicine and surgery. So when
Yeah.
I didn't get medicine and surgery, I got medical lab science. At first I didn't like it because of course it was below the expectations that people had. But then I read about it. I saw people that were doing the course. I read
Yeah.
that okay, my interest is in saving lives, but this is also saving lives.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, medical lab science is the study of, it's basically studying how to diagnose diseases. So you're doing majorly diagnosis, and there's several departments. So if you hear about people wanting to check their genotype, people having diagnosis of maybe heart conditions, liver failure, blah blah blah. So there's a series of tests you have to undergo to get to a diagnosis. So the people that are responsible for all of these tests, a lot of times people think it's the doctor because that's like we the society doesn't have enough information about the
Yeah.
health sector.
Mm-hmm.
But then people that do those tests are the medical lab scientists. So that was
Mm.
what I studied.
Yeah.
And then it felt rewarding in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that I get to contribute to patients' health outcome,
Yeah.
even though I'm not in the front line. Like,
Yeah.
of course. And for fear of blood, as a child, I was scared of blood.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I got admitted, like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't scared. I was very
Yeah.
excited. I remember
Mm-hmm.
our first anatomy
Mm-hmm.
practical with cadavers, like
Mm-hmm.
it's like dead bodies for
Mm.
practical. Some
Wow.
I had heard tales that people would faint, and I was thinking I was going to faint or maybe
Uh-huh.
cry or something. But
Yeah.
then I went there. I was so excited to see it. It was like, oh
Wow.
wow, nice. This is how
Like
it
real
looks.
dead bodies.
Yeah. Like, oh nice, this is how it looks. So really cool. I like to open it. Like I
Uh-huh.
wasn't scared at all. So
Wow.
and again, when we went to the lab, we even started doing phlebotomy
Mm-hmm.
practices on each other. So
Mm-hmm.
phlebotomy is like the art of drawing blood from a
Mm.
vein.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that practical in 300 level. It
Mm-hmm.
was very exciting. I wasn't
Wow.
scared. I wasn't even scared of somebody pricking me. Like it was so
Mm-hmm.
easy. I could
Wow.
allow them do the practical on me, and I did it back in
Mm-hmm.
them. So yeah, I don't think. I think it was just when I was a child. But
Yeah.
when I decided to do what I was doing, I
You
was
outgrew
yeah,
that
yeah,
fear.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't relate at all. I'm so scared of needles. And even this, the mere thought of like
Yeah,
anything gory or any injury just like scares me already in my brain. So I can't even
yeah.
imagine seeing it in person. But you guys are really doing the Lord's work. Well done. You graduated as the best graduating student from the University of Calabar. And for those that don't know, graduating as the best graduating student from a Nigerian university is not easy at all. Like it's a real work, like really, really impressive. And what do you think contributed to your academic success, and what habits or mindsets shaped you and helped you to achieve that?
Yeah. I think there are many factors that
Mm-hmm.
contributed to my academic success. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the first one would be the will,
Mm-hmm.
because I told you that I didn't want to do the course I was given.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not until my 200 or 300 level that I
Mm-hmm.
really started to see that, okay, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted medicine for I wasn't sure why I wanted medicine when I wanted medicine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's a very wonderful course,
Yeah.
but I started to see that, okay, there are other things I could do if this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if I really still want to do medicine, I could still pursue it. But at the time I was like, okay, I'll just focus on this. This is also going to give me it's also a path to what I want to do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I want to contribute to health. I want
Mm-hmm.
to contribute to research.
Yeah.
I want to do cancer research.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that as a medical lab scientist. I can do that as a doctor.
Yeah.
But this is where I am now. So I
Mm-hmm.
would just focus on this. But before then, in 100 level, I had made up my mind that if I was going to do this course,
You do
then I'm
well.
going to graduate with a first class.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had cousins
Mm-hmm.
that I'm the firstborn, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
have any elder sibling.
Mm-hmm.
But I had cousins, or I had a cousin at the
Mm-hmm.
time that was like my elder sibling that was
Okay.
always telling me, "Oh, do this, don't do
Mm-hmm.
that, don't go for too much tutorials, don't go for too many tutorials, focus on what was taught in class." So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
had
Yeah.
all those talks.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in 100 level, I had something like called a vision board or
Mm-hmm.
something that I had pasted on my wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
And there it was a cardboard paper where I wrote that I'm going to graduate with a first class degree.
Wow.
And I didn't know what particular grade, but I just wrote
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to graduate with a first class degree as the
Mm-hmm.
best graduating student in my
Mm-hmm.
class. I wasn't really interested in being best in the school because I knew that
Mm-hmm.
was like really far fetched. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be best in my class.
Wow.
Even if I wasn't best, I wanted to have a first class.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what I wrote on that paper, and then I pasted it on my wardrobe. So
Mm-hmm.
every day, whenever I opened it, I read it somewhere. I read it in a book,
Mm-hmm.
and then I said, okay, let me try it. And then I opened it, and I saw it every single day, and kind of served like a reminder
Mm-hmm.
every day that this
Yeah.
is the goal I'm working towards as long
Mm-hmm.
as I'm in this school.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was funny because I stayed in like a school hostel, if you know
Mm-hmm.
how federal university
Yeah.
hostel could be. And then people would see it and they're like, what is wrong with this girl? And then of course we were mixed in the room. So we had
Mm-hmm.
people that were in final year, and then the
Yeah.
final year students or the third year students would be like, don't worry, when they knock F or this your first class, because then it's just your one semester.
Yeah.
So it's like this small girl from
Mm-hmm. That
secondary
has this
school.
big dream.
It's like you're
Yeah.
dreaming too
Mm-hmm.
big. So yeah, it's like that. But of
Mm-hmm.
course I was not scared.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that I just had to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work out, I know I tried. I put
Yeah.
in the work. So I think that was one of the major things that contributed to my academic success,
Mhm.
and also having people. So
Mhm.
mentorship, I think, is very, very important.
Yeah.
So at that time, I had my cousin as my mentor. Then
Mhm.
even when I got into the school, I then found that I also had a relative that was my senior colleague,
Mhm.
and it was really helpful. Like
Mhm.
because he was like 2 classes ahead, he
Mhm.
would always, any new class we're getting into, he
Mhm.
would try to prime me on what to expect, what not
Mhm.
to expect. And again, I was also very close to some of my other senior colleagues, so I would
Yeah.
get materials before the
Mhm.
next semester.
Yeah.
I was always thinking ahead,
Mhm.
and because personally, people don't believe when I say, but I think I have a short memory
Mhm.
that I don't remember.
Mhm.
So I have to read things over and over and
Yeah,
over
for them
again
to
to
stick.
remember. I read like an idiot, sorry, when I was in university. I read round the clock. I was
Mhm.
always reading.
Yeah.
Like people even had a designated seat for me in night class.
Mhm.
Like some of them would make jokes about it. Oh, why are you not sitting in your seat? We left that seat for you. So yeah, I was always present in
Mhm.
class, and
Yeah.
also because I was in a department where the day could get very busy. So I didn't,
Mhm.
before I used to say I was a morning time reader, but when I got
Mhm.
to the university, I saw that I needed to adapt because
Yeah.
I didn't have time in the morning. I was always
Mhm.
rushing to school, and then I would stay in school till like 4. So there was
Mhm.
really no time. So
Yeah.
nighttime felt like the best time for me to read.
Mhm.
And because I was in a hostel setting, I
Yeah.
could not read in my room. And
Mhm.
again, I also don't like reading in my room. I would sleep off. So I
Mhm.
felt like night class was the best place. I
Yeah.
liked the little noise
Mhm.
from night class, and
Mhm.
I like that. I just liked that little noise and the
Yeah.
presence of
Other
people. Yeah,
people.
I
Yeah.
know people would prefer to read in libraries, but
Mhm.
if I go to a library, I would sleep off. It's so quiet, like it's the perfect place to sleep.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
preferred to read in class where there would be small chaos.
Mhm.
People would start running, phone,
Yeah.
and people were stealing phones. Yeah, it was very funny, but it helped me. So
Mhm.
I was always in class. I could
Yeah.
stay till the next day. Sometimes
Mm.
I don't even sleep, and
Wow.
then I'm reading. And I was not doing that because I really loved to read. I was doing that
Because you had
because,
a goal.
yeah, because I had
Yeah.
to go, and because
Mhm.
I knew that I forgot things so easily. And it was
Oh
so
yeah.
sad. Like, I would always feel bad that people would recollect things that they just
Mhm.
heard in class. And
Mm.
I've read this thing like twice and I still don't
Mhm.
remember it. So I had
Yeah.
to read, I could read a particular course like
Mhm.
3 times
Mm.
before it gets to the exam time
Mhm.
just to retain more information.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that habit helped me. So
Mhm.
it was something I didn't like, but doing it continuously made it
Yeah.
more like an habit. So I think for me, the habit of constant reading, and
Mhm.
I think that's what makes the difference between a first class and other people. I don't think it has to do with really being smart. I think it's
Mhm.
just having like smart study strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what I was able to find, and then mentorship
Mhm.
and the will, and of course God. I'm
Mhm.
a Christian, so
Yeah.
I really believed in the power of God because there
Mhm.
were things that could have gone wrong
Mhm.
that didn't go wrong. So, and I don't
Yeah.
think it was on my own will or that I
Yeah.
was too lucky. I felt
Mhm.
like God's hand
Wasn't
was
it?
in it.
Wow, that's really, really great to hear. It's great to know the behind the scenes of the
Yeah.
achievement because sometimes we just see the achievement and the success. We don't realize the amount of dedication and mindset that it takes to get there. So super, super impressive. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
well done. Did you always know you were going to apply to grad school? Was it something that you had thought of back in undergrad, or was it something that you thought of after you graduated?
Yeah. So I think from 300 level, I
Mm-hmm.
knew
Mm,
even before 300 levels, when I was coming to university, my cousin had told me that there were scholarships,
mm-hmm.
but then it was majorly about other grad scholarships. But he also
Yeah.
told me there were graduate scholarships, but I didn't pay attention because it was like reaching too far. I was
Mm,
still coming into
yeah.
undergrad. So yeah, so I always knew about scholarships. And
Mm-hmm.
then in 300 level, yeah, 300 level, that was 2017 or
Mm-hmm.
2018, I can remember. I like saw I saw Roots scholarship
Mm-hmm.
online, and then I
Yeah.
read about it and it felt so dreamy. I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
wow. And I had watched Harry Potter. I was like, wow, that's why they shot Harry Potter. So
Yeah.
I could go to Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
So black people like me could go to
Mm-hmm.
Oxford, and then it felt like something I could get to if I worked towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had already had that in mind that okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to work so hard. And
Mm-hmm.
I started reading more, and I saw that most of the people I saw had scholarships, had first class. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to have a first class. So
Mm-hmm.
it gave me the energy to like actually try to get that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I had always known that I was going
Mm-hmm.
to apply for a scholarship from 300 level.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. I can relate to that as well because when I was in my final year, I started reaching out to people that had like gotten scholarships both in the UK and the US just to see their journeys.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't going to apply right away, I wanted to just hear their journeys and see how I could prepare. And a lot of them
Yeah.
gave me the same advice, like finish with a good result, aim for like a 5.0 if possible. But at that point, I think it was past like,
Yeah. You
but
can't do
then,
anything.
yeah. What informed your choice of schools, Cambridge and Oxford? Was there something special about these schools that stood out to you aside from their huge prestige?
Yeah. Okay, so the first year I applied to scholarships was
Mm-hmm.
immediately I finished. So I
Mm-hmm.
was doing my internship.
Mm-hmm.
So as a medical lab scientist, we have to do like a 1 year
Mm-hmm.
mandatory internship before service. So it
Mm-hmm.
was during that internship year. And then because all the information I was exposed to were information about scholars from Oxford, Rhodes
Mm-hmm.
Scholarship. I think that was like the first
Yeah.
scholarship I
Mm-hmm.
came in contact with, and it felt so dreamy because I had been
Mm-hmm.
watching Harry Potter
Yeah.
and I liked, that magical
Mm-hmm.
look. So Oxford was like my top
Mm-hmm.
school
Yeah.
at the time. And then of course I only heard about Cambridge when
Mm-hmm.
my mother, not just my mother, everybody, when you're reading too
Yeah.
much, and then I
Mm-hmm.
was always reading. So they'll be like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
are you studying for Cambridge? In a
Yeah.
good Cambridge."
I feel like I feel like almost every Igbo
Yeah,
mother
every
says that.
Igbo mother
Yeah.
says that. Like, yeah, so that's like the only introduction I had
Yeah.
about Cambridge at
Mm-hmm.
that time.
Yeah.
And then Harvard, just like at the top
Yeah.
names we hear.
Mm.
And I think I've just always been a big dreamer because the
Mm-hmm.
first year I applied to all the top schools. I applied to
Yeah.
Harvard, Yale, Cornell,
All the Ivy Leagues and then
Oxford.
Oxford
I don't
and
know what
Cambridge.
gave me that kind of
Yeah.
liver to do all those things. I applied and then all the rejections. I got the US
Mm.
rejections like
Mm.
consistently. I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
another love letter. I was like, no problem. I'll try again.
Yeah.
So like that was the mindset I had the first
Mm-hmm.
year. The only I didn't apply to Cambridge because I
Mm.
I just didn't really know about Cambridge. I
Yeah.
only knew about it from hearing,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Cambridge is when you're really reading so hard.
Yeah.
So I got rejected from the US schools I applied to, but I
Mm.
got accepted into Oxford. And it was
Okay.
surprising because I
Yeah.
felt like, okay, maybe I wasn't good enough. That's
Mm.
why the US schools were rejecting. Maybe I
Mm.
should lower my dreams. I was dreaming too high. So that was how I felt when I saw those rejection letters. So when
Mm-hmm.
I got the acceptance from
Mm-hmm.
Oxford, I was like, oh wow, that means I'm really doing something
Yeah.
good and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that bad.
Mm.
And I applied for a scholarship then. And that's the scholarship had like two rounds. It
Mm-hmm.
had the essay round and the interview round.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the email that I had passed the essay round. I was
Mm-hmm.
invited for interview. I was like, okay, wow, this is really
Yeah.
achievable.
Yeah.
And then for the second round, after the interview went so well. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was nice, they're smiling at me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what that smile meant, but in my head I just felt like they liked me. So I started telling all my siblings and my parents I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
Oxford, started dashing
Yeah.
out my clothes. My siblings would be like, oh, you dash me this one. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can take it. And then
Yeah.
somehow I started waiting. I heard nothing from them, and then I
Uh,
started to email them, and they're like, "Oh, we're still on it to get back
mm,
to you." And in July, I still remember that very sad Monday morning.
mm,
I got the email, and till now I still have PTSD from hearing email sounds, that
yeah.
notification. I
Mm,
heard it, and then I checked my mail, and I saw, "We are sorry,
mm.
you." It felt like a dream. I was like, and I just woke up because early in the
Yeah.
month I was like, maybe I was still
Mm-hmm.
dreaming, and then I was like, oh, it's not a dream, it's actually
Mm,
real. And then I started crying.
mm,
You think I lost somebody the way I cried? I was
mm,
rolling on the floor, and then my mom was like, "What happened? What happened?" And I said, "I'm not going to Oxford."
mm.
My sister was joking that, so all the clothes you've given me, you will collect it back. So I collected all my clothes back. So yeah, that was like the first year. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second year, I now knew about Cambridge,
Mm-hmm.
second year, and
Yeah.
I knew about it online. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew about it from my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing his PhD in Cambridge
Mm.
in my lab,
Oh,
and he
wow.
had studied at Oxford for
Uh-huh.
his master's. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, Cambridge, and we have the same interest
Mm-hmm.
in cancer immunology.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I knew about it, and then I read about it, and I saw that they even have an MPhil program. You
Mm-hmm.
know how Cambridge has like weird nomenclatures for the name
Yeah.
of their courses. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I didn't know because the name was not appearing as MPhil Cancer Immunology. The
Mm-hmm.
name was
Yeah.
MPhil Medical Science. So I
Mm-hmm.
just felt maybe it was not what I was. It was until
Yeah.
I read the website that I saw
Mm-hmm.
that, okay, this is actually what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I applied to Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
I applied to Oxford. But because of that acceptance from Oxford, I
Mm-hmm.
decided not to settle low again. I
Mm-hmm.
still decided to apply to top schools, but this
Yeah.
time I was wiser. I decided to mix it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a mix of both top schools and middle schools so
Mm-hmm.
that in case this one doesn't work out,
Yeah.
my backups will work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then surprisingly, the backups rejected me first again in the
Really?
second round. Yeah,
Wow.
I paid application fee £100 to University of Iowa. They sent me rejection letter first.
No.
And then once I didn't even pay application
Mhm.
fees, it
Yeah.
was I was like, and that was like the second year. I had put in
Mhm.
all my efforts, brought in
Yeah.
all the arsenal I had,
Mm.
mentors, like everything. I gave in my
Mhm.
all.
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping, and I was working 2 jobs.
Mm.
So every night, that was the only time I had. I could sleep
Mm.
like until 3, trying to
Mhm.
research schools and make
Yeah.
applications. So I was really sad when I was like, if my safe school
Mm.
could reject me,
Mhm.
University of Iowa, University of
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there were Nigerians that were there.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
felt like, okay, since there are more Nigerians here,
Mhm.
it could be easier to get into.
Mhm.
So that's why I classified them as my safe schools.
Mhm.
They rejected me first.
Mhm.
And then I was like, okay, maybe there's no hope for me again this year. But then I was waiting on Oxford and
Uh-huh.
Cambridge because those were
Yeah.
like the only 2 UK schools I
Mhm.
applied to, and I got admitted at
Mhm.
both, and the whole journey, and I got scholarships at both.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So it's not nothing really influenced my choice
Mhm.
except that this was like the first exposure I had, and
Mhm.
again from Harry Potter having the magical, and then for Cambridge,
Mhm.
it's a top school.
Yeah.
Um, also the experience with my mentor.
Mhm.
So at the end, when I was trying to make a decision between Oxford and Cambridge,
Mhm.
I didn't decide based on my dreams, because at the time Oxford was like the dream school because of
Mhm.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
For weird reasons, I just liked the magical feeling that Harry Potter gave me. So
Mhm.
Oxford was my first choice
Mhm.
if I were to choose before then.
Mhm.
But when I got Cambridge, and then I was like, okay, now I have to make the choice. So I
Mhm.
made the choice based on what was good for my goals, like
Yeah.
my career, what I
Mhm.
really wanted to do. I
Yeah.
wanted to study cancer research. So,
Mhm.
and the Cambridge program felt like a better fit. So it
Mhm.
was painful to like reject my dream school. But yes, I think that was what influenced my choice of school,
Mhm.
Cambridge. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I can relate to when you said, the first time you applied to
Yeah.
all the top schools, because that was the same thing I did when I applied the first time. I applied to like Harvard, Stanford, all of the big schools, and then the
Like
rejections were
you
just
have two
coming in
heads.
droves. And mind you, the first time I didn't even have any experience. I was paying the application fees. I
Oh,
didn't know you had like a way around,
waiver.
like you could get
Yeah.
waivers. So I spent like over $1,000
Wow.
in application fees. I
Yeah.
mean, you learn from these things. How did you first hear about the Gates Cambridge scholarship, and what made you decide to apply? What was it about this scholarship that stood out to you and you said, "Oh, this is something I want to apply for"?
Okay. So at the time I was making my applications,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care about how prestigious the
Mm-hmm.
scholarships were. I just wanted to
Yeah.
have funding.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah,
was
that's
what
very
was
important.
primary for me.
Yeah.
But because I had applied to Rhodes,
Mm-hmm.
where I was a finalist,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I was applying to Oxford, I knew that they had like scholarships that you didn't need to make any separate applications to, you just
Mm-hmm.
needed to apply.
Yeah.
So I did those ones. And then for Cambridge,
Mm-hmm.
they had scholarships that you had to make separate applications to, and there were
Mm-hmm.
also scholarships you didn't need to make applications to, you just
Yeah.
get automatically considered for.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them was Gates,
Yeah.
and then there was MasterCard
Mm-hmm.
Cambridge. So I applied to MasterCard, I applied to Gates Cambridge,
Mm-hmm.
and just later I now even knew how prestigious Gates was. At the
Mm-hmm.
time I knew I used to hear about it,
Yeah.
but I just, when I was browsing about it, and
Mm-hmm.
then I was seeing that, it is really 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 prestigious.
Mm-hmm.
And then I applied, and I got invited to interview.
Mm-hmm.
And in the interview, like every interview, I was very nervous. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know whether or not I was going to get in, because Gates have like a preference for PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 2/3 of the scholarships go to PhD
Yeah.
students, and then 1/3 to masters.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so what's my chance? I'm doing a
Mm-hmm.
masters, and I'm coming from Nigeria. It's like, oh, okay, what are my chances?
Mm-hmm.
But the interview started well, but towards the interview didn't start well in my head. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was boring because I was
Mm-hmm.
speaking about my research.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end of the interview, I started to feel like they were really excited when I was talking
Mm-hmm.
about other things I had done. So,
Yeah.
and then I started feeling like, okay, this might be possible. I may
Mm-hmm.
get in.
Yeah.
And so when I got in, I was so excited. And then I read about it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time I got in, a month later, I also got
Mm-hmm.
MasterCard Cambridge.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, and then a month later, I got MasterCard at Fox at Oxford.
Oh,
So
wow.
then I was now faced with 3 choices to make.
Yeah.
It was easy for me to choose Gate Cambridge over
Mhm.
Mastercard Cambridge.
Yeah.
But the biggest decision was choosing Gate Cambridge over Mastercard Afox, not because of
Mhm.
the scholarship, but because of the school. I had
Yeah.
told you that I liked
Oxford.
Oxford.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when I got in, I was like, okay, my major reason for choosing Cambridge was not just because of the scholarship. I told you it
Mhm.
was because of the course.
Yeah.
But again, why Gates Cambridge scholarship stood out to me was that first it gave me like an international exposure. So it's an
Mhm.
international scholarship. I was going
Yeah.
to have the international community. And
Mhm.
I thought about how, of course, coming here, I was going to have my Nigerian society, have my
Mhm.
African, they would always be home.
Yeah.
So okay, I could also have this other home
Mhm.
where I would have the international exposure that I
Mhm.
wanted. And I looked at the stipend, they were very similar. Gates
Mhm.
was just maybe a few pounds higher.
Mhm.
And then I was like, okay, that's there. There's the
Mhm.
international exposure.
Yeah.
Then there's the that they have other discretionary funds that
Mhm.
Mastercard didn't have at the time.
Mhm.
But even if that time it was not going to be applicable to me because I'm not married, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
The discretionary funds, one of them was the one for kids. Like
Okay.
if you have children,
Mhm.
they're very supportive, good
Mhm.
money. I think
Mhm.
around 11,000 or 12,000 pounds if you have
Wow.
one child,
Mhm.
and if you have two children, I think it's like 16 or 15,000 pounds.
Wow,
So
that's
it's like
good.
good money
Yeah.
for people that have kids. So they're
Mhm.
very, very supportive.
Yeah.
And then there's money for conferences.
Mhm.
So I looked at all of those things
Mhm.
and I had the dream to want to do a PhD. So I
Mhm.
also thought about that.
Yeah.
Gates was more um I felt I had a better chance with Gates if I wanted
Mhm.
to do a PhD.
Yeah.
So that's what informed my choice for Gates
Oh,
scholarship
that's really
primarily.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. Especially with the three scholarships. So it's a good problem to have. That's because you have to choose
Yeah.
between these top programs, like these three top scholarships, and then you made the best choice ultimately that aligns with your career goals. So
Yeah.
that's really great to hear. What was your application process like from drafting your research proposal, your statement of purpose to securing your recommenders? Were there any challenges you faced and how did you navigate them?
Don't want to go back to those times. Those were trying times.
For real?
I was facing trials and tribulations.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was very difficult. I
Mhm.
won't even lie. It was
Yeah.
like everybody that's gone through that process would
Mhm.
know that it is very difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult. There's a lot of emotional
Mhm.
involvement. Then
Yeah.
there's physical stress,
Mhm.
emotional stress, even financial stress.
Yeah.
Because for some schools, you had to pay application
Yeah.
fees, and then sometimes they would want you to write some exams that you
Mhm.
have to pay. So it was so stressful on every level,
Yeah.
especially because I was doing it at the time where I had jobs.
Mhm.
Like I had my NYC going on. I
Mhm.
was also working part time at the cancer
Mhm.
hospital, and then there were just too many things. So
Mhm.
it was very, very, very challenging.
Mhm.
But during the process, I think the most challenging thing for me during the process, out of other challenging things, would be actually recommendation letters
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's not easy,
It's
especially in
not at
Nigeria.
all. Yeah.
It's not easy. I had sweet recommenders, sweet
Mhm.
referees, that's what I meant. But then it was still difficult because you had to play with their timeline, not
Yeah.
just your timeline.
Mhm.
But I think what helped me because I had had the experience the first year and I tried to start early. So
Mhm.
immediately I got that last rejection I got from Oxford
Mhm.
the previous year.
Yeah.
After like wailing and crying, I decided,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to face my problems.
Yeah.
I was going to apply again. So that was
Mhm.
when I decided I was going to apply again. And I reached
Mhm.
out to them to let them
Mhm.
know that, oh, I didn't get the scholarship, but I want to apply next year. And I
Mhm.
would be reaching out to them again.
Mhm.
So when it is getting closer, not so closer, but like 5 months or 6 months,
Yeah.
I had started like I'm looking at schools I wanted to apply to.
Mhm.
So I sent each of them like an Excel sheet of the
Mhm.
schools I wanted to apply to
Yeah.
and their timelines.
Mhm.
So they were informed. And
Mhm.
then I started my application in all of those schools at the same
Mhm.
time, just
Yeah.
so that I could register their names as
Mhm.
my recommendation.
Yeah.
I keep calling them recommendation as my
Recommenders.
recommenders. And then,
There's so
so,
many names for these
yeah,
things. References,
reference
recommenders. It's
so that
all
they
the same
get the
thing.
notification
Yeah.
and then I could then take my time to complete the application. So that's what
Mhm.
I did and I think it was really helpful. But
Yeah.
even at that, it was still difficult because
Mm.
you had to make sure that the recommendation letters you were getting was what you wanted to get in
Yeah.
terms of what the school actually wants.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times our lectures are very busy.
Mhm.
They they don't need it as much as you need it. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to make them see how important the
Important.
letter
Yeah.
is. So that was also difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because writing my essay was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because of I passed through the roads application process, I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything harder than the roads application process. It was so I'm like, why do I have to do all this? God.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it made it easier for the
Mm-hmm.
other scholarships I was going to apply to
Yeah.
because I'd gone through that process. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that okay, that process, I didn't get scholarship at the end, but
Mm-hmm.
it taught me more about what I really really wanted. Like
Yeah.
I got to like um I understood what exactly I wanted for my life, for my
Yeah.
goals
Mm-hmm.
from thinking. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I would just stay, I'm like, God, what do I really want to do? This personal statement is not statementing. Like
You know, the
it's
personal
not
statement can really make you introspect. It's just
exactly.
like time to think
So
about
I
your
was
life
thinking
and
about
what
my
you
life.
really
I was
want.
like, really, okay,
Yeah.
I'm interested in cancer research. How do I tell this story now? How do I tell these people,
Mm-hmm.
like, to make them see how passionate I am
Yeah.
about this thing I want to do? So
Mm-hmm.
it gave me that I was able to think and really come up with something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that now like created the blueprint for other
Yeah.
things I was applying to. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
personal statement was difficult, but not as difficult because I had prior exposure.
Yeah.
So I then started writing just to suit the prompt
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times we just use that one personal statement for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the second year I was applying, I was more intentional
Mm-hmm.
about having it based on whatever the website says. If they
Yeah.
say they want my research experience, I
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. If they want my academic, I was just focusing on what they wanted for each
Yeah.
essay. But because I already had that framework
Mm-hmm.
of why I was doing what I wanted to do, what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do, and the plans I had for what I wanted to do, it was easier to always carve out the stories to suit the schools.
Yeah.
So yeah, my personal statement was there. Recommendation was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Interviews was also another difficult part
Yeah.
because now you're having to defend all the things you've said in your
Yeah.
essay. Oh, you did all these amazing things. Anybody could write anything.
Mm-hmm.
People
Yeah.
write things. So now they have to like see it in your
Mm-hmm.
expression, see
Yeah.
how passionate you are, get to
Mm-hmm.
learn your thought process. And sometimes I am very, very, very self-critical. So I always think about, oh, I don't like how I sound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what if I'm not sounding well? What if I'm not using the right dictions? What
Mm-hmm.
if they don't understand my English?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing. So I also had the problem with the interviews,
Mm-hmm.
always worrying about what I sounded like, whether
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the things I wanted to hear the right
Mm-hmm.
way. But at the end of the day, like now looking back, I'm like, okay, these people don't really care about these things.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about how you're sounding. They want you to sound your best self, your
Yeah.
original self.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to see the passion.
Mm-hmm.
You can always tell when somebody's passionate about
Yeah,
something.
that's
You
true.
see it in how they speak about it. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just what they wanted to see,
Yeah.
and also what has led to all of these, where this is going to. And for scholarships, they just want to know if their money would be put to good use.
Yeah.
So yeah, but at the time it was a difficult thing for me to
Challenge.
to
Yeah.
get through it. So yeah, but the application process itself was it was a time for me to learn more about myself, but it was
Mm-hmm.
difficult. Yeah, but I think that was it.
No, I can very much relate to when you mentioned managing the recommenders
Yeah,
because sometimes managing the recommenders can be like a full-time job on its own. Like you have to remind them and then
remind
give
them.
them like pointers and
Yeah,
things to write because sometimes they can just write something generic. So you have to like
yeah,
give them pointers
and
and then
trust that they write the
yeah,
right
trust
thing.
they write the right thing
because
because you
because
can't see it.
sometimes you can't see
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because then I remember that I had to like, because I wasn't sure. I was like, oh God, would this sound somehow if I tell them I want to see, just to be sure that they're
Mm-hmm.
writing the right things? I was
Yeah.
like, okay. But at the end of the day, I was able to trust that they
Yeah.
wrote the right thing. For some, I also sent like a draft
Mm-hmm.
of what it should look like
Yeah.
to like guide them, because
Yeah.
sometimes they've not written this thing before
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know what's expected. And for
Yeah.
some scholarships, they have like a separate document.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rhodes has that document. Gates also have a document of
Mm-hmm.
what they want the referee to exactly focus on, the questions they
Yeah.
want them to answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent them those things and
Mm-hmm.
it was very helpful to them. And I had very sweet lecturers, like
Mm-hmm.
very nice women. They were so
Yeah.
interested in my growth as well.
Mhm.
So it was easy. So that's also another thing. People choose recommenders on the basis of hierarchy.
Yeah,
It could be, oh,
sometimes.
I want to choose my professor, head of department,
HOD,
somebody
yeah.
that has a big name.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of the day, that person that has a big name doesn't really know
No,
you.
you.
So they write you something very generic. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I know Kamsi, she's so smart, she's the
Mm-hmm.
smartest in the class, and full stop. And so I recommend her.
Kamsi is a good girl.
Yeah, she's smart. She's hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's hardworking. She
Yeah.
pays attention to
Mm-hmm.
details. Full stop. And then that's the end. But then that's not what these things want,
Yeah.
especially scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
competitive. They want to see
Yeah.
that this person has had a good story with you,
Mm-hmm.
had good experiences with
Yeah.
you. So they want you to write about your experiences with that
Mm-hmm.
person. So getting somebody that has you've worked with, that
Mm-hmm.
knows you and
Mm-hmm.
can write about you should take priority over getting somebody that's like top or in their career
Yeah.
also. So I think that was one of the things I really paid attention to when I was
Mm-hmm.
choosing my referees. At the time, only one person was a professor at the
Mm-hmm.
time when I was applying. The
Mm-hmm.
other two were my lecturers,
Yeah.
but I felt they knew me better.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think that should be like the priority for recommendation letter. It makes things easier
Yeah.
when they know you, you trust that they would write something good about you
Mm-hmm.
and not just something generic. Not like, because there's always like lecturers used to have like a
A
template.
template. Yeah. Yeah.
So
They
every
do.
student that comes to them, they're like, "Oh, you want recommendation?" Like, okay, all right. They'll just change the name from they'll change it from
Mm-hmm.
maybe Olivia to Kamsi or
Yeah.
Choma, and then
Mm-hmm.
just give you. So yeah, what you want, and you also have to like make them see
Mm-hmm.
that really, because even those ones that you trust also have those generic templates, but
Mm-hmm.
you want them to see how important this is and
Mm-hmm.
how you want it to be outside of that box.
Mm-hmm.
That's why maybe giving them a draft could help. Giving them
Mm-hmm.
those documents, if the scholarship have them, would help them see that this is what is needed from them. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had a recommender that was very like stubborn. He was like, "Oh, he
Mhm.
has a template." I still sent him a draft, like a guide, just so
Yeah.
he could see what the scholarship expects him to like
Yeah.
write or
Right
something. Yeah.
about.
So I understand that the Gates Cambridge Scholarship shortlists applicants for an interview, and then you discuss your academic work, your career goals, and how that aligns with the Gates Cambridge values.
Yeah.
What did the interview feel like, and how did you prepare for it?
Okay. So because I think I don't know if I would say I'm a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says they're perfectionist. I
Yeah.
remember when people ask me what is your weakness, I'm like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
perfectionist. You're trying to choose the safe
Yeah.
weakness. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I think I'm very okay. Let me not use perfection. Let me say self-critical because
Mm-hmm.
like I criticize a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it could be a blessing and it could be a curse.
Mm.
So because I'm very self-critical, I over prepare for things.
Yeah.
Remember my roots. I had watched several YouTube videos, so I had
Mm-hmm.
like an entire document
Mm-hmm.
of possible questions, and then I would then rehearse my answers
Mm-hmm.
and write it, like transcribe it to written notes. Actually,
Yeah.
I would even transcribe if I wanted to sound like or
Mm-hmm.
like wanted to say something that it's supposed to come out naturally.
Mm-hmm.
I'd write it there in my notes just so that when I'm practicing, I'm also
Yeah.
practicing it to sound natural.
Yeah.
Because of course everybody would prepare, but at the end of the day, you don't want to sound like you're
Yeah.
cramming something. So yeah, I had that document. I
Mm-hmm.
was preparing for things. So the same thing for Gates. I
Mm-hmm.
had another document for
Yeah.
Gates where I had watched things, I had read about things, I'd
Mm-hmm.
asked other Gates scholars,
Mm-hmm.
and then I prepared. At the end of the day, on the day of the interview, none of those things came out.
Mm.
Not even one single
Really?
one.
Wow.
All the things I had prepared for, nothing
Mm-hmm.
came out. And I think it was for the best
Mm-hmm.
because most times when you prepare too much, you start
Mm-hmm.
to sound like you're like a
Rehearsed.
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always better for things to flow like a
Naturally.
conversation, and that's what the
Mm-hmm.
Gate interview is like. It's like a
Yeah.
conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and then the interview process was like so. It had like two parts. It's a panel interview,
Mm-hmm.
and then I interviewed virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So some people interviewed physically, but I
Yeah.
interviewed virtually, and then we had like three people on the panel,
Mm-hmm.
and they had different panels. I was on the biological science panel,
Mm-hmm.
and then luckily I'd read about my panelists, and I saw
Mm-hmm.
that nobody was doing anything on cancer,
Mm-hmm.
but they were doing other related biomedical research for not necessarily on cancer. So I was like, okay, maybe this might be good or it might be bad. It might be good in the sense that if I see things that I'm not so sure of, they may
Yeah.
not know,
Mm-hmm.
but it might be bad in the sense that they may not understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I wanted to sound as basic as
Mm-hmm.
possible,
Yeah.
but also sound like I really knew what I was talking
Mm-hmm.
about. So the first part of my interview was going to be around my research.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked me about my research, the research I was coming to do, and So the research I was coming to do was so new to me because before now I had worked in a hospital, more
Yeah.
clinical setting and not like lab based. Of course, I was working in the lab, but it was clinical. I was doing clinical things, but now I'm coming to do more basic medical things,
Yeah.
more molecular studies. So because of that, I'd done a lot of reading because it was not something I was familiar with. I'd done a lot of reading. I had read all of my supervisor's papers. I kept reading things, watching YouTube videos. I even took like a short course on hedgehog. And then I had like jottings. So when I was talking about my research, you would think I was a lecturer. I was just talking about, and then it was when I got here that I met one of the gate scholars, and he was telling me that he was in the waiting room when I was interviewing, and he could hear my voice.
Really? How does that happen on Zoom?
Yeah, on
I've
Zoom,
not heard
they
that.
could hear my voice. That I sounded like a lecturer. They were like, "Who is this lecturer? Are you coming to teach the panelists about your research?" I sounded so sure of what I was saying. And it was like, who is this person? So it was when I came and then it was like, okay, so you're the Kamsi that I was hearing, overhearing. So I think, but then it's not like I knew what I was saying, but because I had read too much about it, I was talking to them and I had the mindset that they didn't know what I was talking about, which I think now looking back, I think it was a good thing that I thought of it that way. So because of that, I felt the need to explain every single thing.
Yeah, bring it down to
Yeah,
their
and
level.
because I was explaining every single thing, it felt like I really knew what I was saying.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot, so maybe I was yapping too much. I kept telling them about my research, how this is going to be transformative. It's the next big thing in cancer, and my research is actually very interesting. So I also enjoy talking about it.
Yeah.
And then they were just looking at me. The expression was flat. I was like, these people enjoying what I'm saying. But then I didn't want to judge because the last interview that I judged that they were smiling at me, they rejected me.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
the
okay.
interview was poker faces.
Yeah.
Like
So
you
I was
can't
like,
really read the expression.
you can't read
so,
the expression. So I was like, okay, let me just keep at it. But again, another thing happened. So during my interview, we're having light problems. I stay on the mainland and we had lots of light issues that period in my area. And I was working on the island. So I was like, okay, I have to choose two things. Do I do it in my house or do I do it in the office? In the office, I was concerned about distractions. And I didn't want anybody to know that I was planning to run away. And then in my house, I was concerned that what if I don't have network? I bought a router just because of my interview. It was I think 16,000 or 15,000. I bought the router. I was like, okay, I want this to work. And then I tried to test the router. I still saw that the network was not so stable. I was like, okay, I can't gamble this. I have to go to the office. So I just spoke to one person in the office. I think only two people then knew what I was doing. Then I spoke to one of them to allow me use his office. And then I was praying that nobody comes to look for him in the office because that would be so But then somebody came to look for him. But thankfully, when
were
they
you able to
came,
play it
I
off?
didn't like bring down the window or like take up the window blinds.
Yeah.
So they were down, so it looked like nobody
Nobody
was
was
there.
there.
So when they came and then they looked and they saw that the window blinds were closed, the door was closed. I locked the door from inside. So but I could see them from inside because of course I could see what was happening outside. And then they turned back. I was like, oh Jesus, thank you. So I was so
There's so
scared.
many
I was like,
unpredictable
yeah, I was
factors
like,
in
because
Nigeria.
just
Like,
one distraction
yeah.
can just upset like everything in your head. You start saying rubbish. So yeah, I didn't want that to happen. So when I saw them leaving, I was so happy. And then my interview was about to start. So when it started, my network went off again,
Really, in the office.
even with the strong network. But thankfully, it started at the beginning of the interview.
Okay.
So they were waiting, and then immediately it came up immediately, and they were like,
Okay.
"Oh, we understand. Don't worry." So yeah, so the interview started. The first part, I felt like I had done justice to my research, even if I didn't know what the expression was like. In my head, I was like, "Did I speak too much?" Because it didn't even stop me. I was just yapping about all the things my research was going to do. Then I asked me if you knew this much about this thing, why are you doing an MPhil and not a PhD? What came to my head, like immediately, was that coming from Nigeria, I didn't think that I had all the research experience needed to go straight into independent research, which is what PhD is all about.
Yeah.
So I felt like the MPhil would give me some form of, build that foundation, give me the confidence, also the technical skills that I need for more independent research in my PhD. But they didn't agree with me. They said no, that that's what your first year of PhD is for. So in my head, I felt like, oh God, I've answered one question wrongly now. That's how I judged how I answered the question. But the truth is that there's no right or wrong
Yeah,
answer
there's no
to
right
these
or wrong
things.
answer.
And then they then moved to the next part of the interview, which was more about the things you've done, all those things, those beautiful things you said you've been doing in your community. You've raised how many people from the dead, all those things. That was the second part of the interview. And then in my essay, I had spoken about my experience with Millennium Campus Fellowship as a campus director in my school. And of course, if you're familiar with Millennium Campus Fellowship, you needed to do like a project. So I spoke about my project, which was on sickle cell disease. They told me why was I interested in that project? Why did I not do something around cancer, which is my interest? I explained to them because it was not funded. It's going to be from pocket. I felt like health education was going to be cheaper and also impactful because one of the issues we have in Nigeria is lack of information and also misinformation. And health education is one of the ways to bridge that gap. So that's why I chose that project. And then that was when I started seeing that okay, these people were actually smiling. They smiled for the first time. They started smiling, and then they looked more engaging and actually interested in what I was saying. And then I spoke about my experience with leading in fellowship. And then they said the one thing I think that really made me feel like I was going to get in, even if I was still unsure, was when I think they had my personal statement. They would always have those things, and then they were reading. They were like, "Oh, you mentioned something here about your podcast." And that podcast is just a very funny something because it's just something that I was just doing. I started it from a place of not wanting to waste my time during COVID. So it was during COVID. And then I was just going there to yap. I like talking. I'm just going there to talk. Then I'll talk about NSAS. That's what I was training. I'll be like, so on today's episode, what was happening in NSAS protest? And then after COVID, we went back to school. Things became busy. My life became serious. So I was like, okay, I then have to I was no longer very, very active with it. But after I graduated, because that was the year I also graduated, but it was very dormant. Then in 2023, I graduated. In 2022, I graduated first as best graduate student in my school, in my department. And the next year was my convocation, where I was also announced as best. So all around that period, I had many people come to me, oh, can you mentor me? You know, this kind of thing. So I was like, okay, I thought about it. That I had this podcast that I just used to yap and say things that don't concern me. And then so why don't I use it to give more academic content? Because of course I can't mentor everybody. So I felt like, and so during COVID I was writing a book. I did a lot of things during COVID.
So COVID just had us exploring.
I was exploring all my creativity. I was like, oh, what can I be? I can be a content creator. I can be. I did a lot of these. I even participated in online public speaking competitions. I won 50K from one. I was like, oh wow, nice. So I did a lot of things during COVID. So during COVID, I started a book. It got to chapter 7. The book is with me.
What's the book about? Is it like a biography?
It's an academic excellence book.
Okay.
So I was just documenting tips that helped me study better. I spoke about like all the things that contributed to academic success in my life. So I was putting them in books and also telling stories about. I have many stories, so I was just telling stories about my academics, and then it was a nice book. I still think it's a nice book that I should finish, but
it should
I just
actually,
never
because a lot of people
finished it.
want to read that.
So what I did, because I wanted to make this podcast more academic related, so content from my book, I made them into like episodes. So today, okay, time management is one thing that affects students. So I speak about it. Okay, today reading strategy, study design, where to read, how to read, what to read. Yeah. So I started making content about these things, and then it's not so popular because I don't have a room. I don't even have a tripod. I just have my phone, and then I use Anchor, and then I speak to it, and I post it. So that's what I do. It was very basic, and then I started I had like good listens, good plays. I had plays from like different countries. You know, like Spotify gives you audience where your countries
the analytics.
And then I had like listens from like 8 countries or so. So yeah, I was like, okay, nice. And I was also people told me to make it into YouTube, but then because I'm self-critical, I felt like, how would I sound? How does my hair look? How does my eye look? So I was like,
you don't have to worry about any of those things. If you see my old YouTube videos, you'll cringe so hard because they're so like cringe worthy. But
till now
Just
I
start.
cringe hearing my audio podcast. Like sometimes when it plays out or
Mhm.
when maybe my friend is listening to it, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, off my phone. I don't want to hear it. And because
Yeah.
of it, I could retake a particular episode like three
Mhm.
times because I
Mhm.
just don't like how I sound.
Yeah.
So I was not imagining now having to be video. So
Yeah.
I decided to just stick with just the audio.
Mhm.
So during my interview, when they mentioned it, it was just something, it was just maybe 5 words in my
Mhm.
essay,
Yeah.
just something I added as an appendage to
Mhm.
things I've done.
Yeah.
So I didn't even
To
think
make
they were
it,
going
yeah.
to like highlight it. They just
Mhm.
mentioned that, oh, as part of my commitment to people's
Mhm.
development, I also have a podcast, Let's Talk
Yeah.
Scam Cam, where I share academic tips. Full stop.
Mhm.
And then they were like, oh, you have a podcast. Can you tell us more about it? And then I was like, oh wow.
Mhm.
And then I just started to just tell them exactly. So I started
Mhm.
from this story I just told from
Yeah.
2020. I
Mhm.
told it exactly and
Mhm.
how the podcast came to be, and even how I've not been so active because I've been busy with
Mhm.
applications. And they were
Yeah.
so excited. It's like,
Mhm.
how is this thing is so little, it's so basic, it's not that deep, it's
Mhm.
not like it's not I said what I said
Yeah,
kind
it's
of podcast.
not.
And they were so excited. They're like, oh wow.
Mhm.
So to them, it felt like huge impact.
Mhm.
And Gates is all about impact. What they
Yeah.
want to see is that you're really making impact, no
Mhm.
matter how small the
Small.
impact
Yeah.
is, no matter you don't have to be president or
Mhm.
be in like a top leadership
Right.
position. So that's what they want to see. And I think that was what really cemented it for them because they were
Mhm.
so like unusually excited. And
Mhm.
I was now surprised. I was like, why these people so excited? They were not
Uh-huh.
talking amongst themselves. So I also
Yeah.
got to learn that they have then for Gates started like a podcast series.
Oh
So I
wow.
also told them that I would love to be a part of it.
Mhm.
That was the best part of my interview for the
Mhm.
Gates, and that was the last part. So it was good
Yeah.
ending on that note.
Mhm.
And then that was how it ended. I was like, okay, when people ask me how was it, I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, I think it's good. I don't know
Yeah.
about the first part,
Uh-huh.
but I think the second part was
Mhm.
good. Yeah, that was my interview experience. At the end, yeah, I
Yeah.
got in. I had other terrible interview experiences, but yeah, that was it. For my MasterCard AFOX interview, it
Mhm.
was so out of, I felt so during the call, I had
Mhm.
the interview in my house with
Okay.
my phone as the hotspot to my
Mhm.
laptop.
Okay.
So during the interview, I had told my mother my interview was by 1 or
Mhm.
so. Probably she thought my interview was by 12
Mhm.
and called me
Mhm.
during the interview.
Uh,
And when you're using your phone to hotspot, when a call
you
comes
cut
in,
the
it
connection.
disconnects. So
Yeah.
it disconnected the
Mm.
interview. And already it put me on that pressure because
Mhm.
then I had just been having interviews. No one was coming with any answer. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I had the pressure to try to also be good here.
Mhm.
And then the faces on the interviewers were not even promising.
Mm.
One of them had their camera off. So I was
Mm.
like, oh, what
Wow.
if I can't even tell if they like what
Mhm.
I'm saying or
Yeah.
not? The other guy, his face was just flat. He was just looking
Mhm.
at me. I was like, what if I'm saying rubbish? And of course, even though I had prepared for some of the questions, I still
Mhm.
felt like I probably wasn't saying it the way I should be saying it.
Mhm.
And then when my mother's call came, it just spoiled the entire mood.
Yeah.
So it also affected my train of
Mhm.
thought. But at the end of the day, I got a scholarship, which is
Yeah.
surprising. So I just feel like at the end, we put a lot of pressure on these
Mhm.
things, on
Yeah.
interviews, on how we sound, on whether we
True.
sound well. But for me, I think the best tip would just be just see it as a conversation. That's
Yeah.
helped me a lot. Like
Mhm.
even during this interview, the
Mhm.
interview we're having now,
Yeah. It's kind
yeah,
of like a
if
conversation.
you see it as an exam, it
Mhm.
puts more pressure. So
Yeah.
when you're practicing, let the practice not be I want to say this way. Because if
Yeah.
you don't say it that way, you now start to feel like you're saying rubbish.
Mhm.
You should rather be if they ask me this sort of question, these are the
Mhm.
things I would like to talk about. If I like
Yeah.
to talk about X and X, like of course people you'd prepare about questions like tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
It's always one of the ice breaking
Mhm.
questions in most
Yeah.
interviews. You should not prepare like I'm going to say exactly this way. Oh, I was
Mhm.
born in a family of five. Yeah, it should be like okay, I'm going to speak about this, my
Mhm.
family. I'm going to speak about my whatever you want to speak about. Just
Yeah.
like highlight it.
Mhm.
That way, it's not going to sound rehearsed.
Yeah.
It's going to sound like a conversation.
Mhm.
And I feel like even if you can't tell,
Mhm.
the other person can read the energy when it's a
Yeah.
conversation
Mhm.
than when you're just yapping what you've
Mhm.
rehearsed overnight.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done because
Mhm.
every interview, everybody's always on that pressure. But I think it has helped me because for
Yeah.
my gate interview, I also try to tell myself that
Mhm.
I should try to sound conversational. And thankfully, my interview questions were nothing close to what I was preparing for. So
Mhm.
because of that, I was forced to like think on
Be
the
yourself.
spot and
Yeah.
be myself. And that
Mhm.
I think those like all the interviews where I was myself were the
Mhm.
interviews that I think I made it through.
Yeah.
The ones I tried to like rehearse when I didn't
They
get
could see
anything,
through
yeah,
that.
they would
Yeah.
see through it. Yeah, so
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense, especially with the whole COVID-19 and
yeah,
finding out your talent. Because even me during the pandemic, I started a blog, and that blog didn't go anywhere, but it was just me writing self-motivational
yeah,
things. And then at some point, I was like, okay, what can I do that aligns with like academics?
yeah,
And then decided to start a YouTube channel. After my horrible experience of paying application fees, I was like, when I found the way, I was like, hmm.
yeah,
So there's a way you don't have to spend this amount of money and you can still get admission. So I started just creating content around that. But
yeah,
yeah, so after that there was now a period of waiting.
yeah.
How did the waiting feel? And do you remember where you were when you got that call or the email when you got the offer?
Okay, so it's very draining. Again, don't take me back.
Mm-hmm.
It was so like my parents can tell. I think they're the
Mm-hmm.
only ones that would understand like how it felt, and I'm so thankful that I was with them
Mm-hmm.
during that phase because
Yeah.
I can be very emotional about things. Like it's always everything is always a do or die affair to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either I give it my all, it's either
Mm-hmm.
it works out. If it doesn't work out, I'm always so upset and
Yeah.
everything. So if I was alone, if I was living alone that period,
Mm-hmm.
probably would have fallen into like a long period of depression.
Mm-hmm.
It's that deep for me at that time.
Yeah.
But my parents were around
So
and then they were involved every step. They would see
mm-hmm.
me, they would wake up to drink water and then see
Mm-hmm.
me at night. And they're like, oh, it's not that serious. My
Mm-hmm.
mother one time she mentioned when I didn't get the Oxford the first time,
Mm-hmm.
she was like, oh, don't cry, don't worry,
Mm-hmm.
that we're gonna take masters for me Unilag. She was like, anyone, if it's not Unilag, if it's
Mhm.
bad, don't go to Ibadan, I'll take masters. In my head, I'm like, I know you want to
Yeah.
pacify me, but
Mhm.
this one is even annoying me the more. It's
No,
a
no,
it's a
no shade to you,
it's a good
Lacus. Yeah.
option, but I've been dreaming big. How do
Yeah.
you want me to reduce my dream? Feeling that I'm applying to Harvard, I'm not gonna pick Unilag form. Of course, there's a time where you know not to continue trying.
Mhm.
Maybe you've been applying for 5 years. There's no
Mhm.
point waiting for five
Yeah.
years when you can as well do a master's
Mhm.
in a good school, which Unilag is a good
Mhm.
school,
Yeah.
Unibadan is a good school. While you're still applying to chase your dreams, yeah,
Mhm.
you should not be stuck in one place because you're chasing your dreams. You
Yeah.
should chase your dreams while moving. So
Mhm.
that's what I believe. But at that time, that was not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah,
I didn't
because
want
you
to
were
hear
still
Unilag.
starting.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to hear Ibadan.
Uh-huh.
So I told them, don't worry, you should
Mhm.
not worry that I'll apply again the next
Mhm.
year. So my
Yeah.
parents knew. So that waiting period was very, 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 very wrenching, heart
Mhm.
wrenching. I could anything that sounded like an email notification gave me
Mhm.
like a heart attack.
Mhm.
That's why till now, whenever I hear the sound, I had to turn off my email notifications. So I don't
Mhm.
have email notifications because
Mhm.
it makes me feel very, very anxious. The
Mhm.
other day I was in my friend's room and then an email came in and I was like, and then I remembered, okay, okay, those days are gone. I was always very anxious. I was always checking my phone. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, what is this saying?
Mhm.
And then when I'm reading the email, my heart is pumping. I'm like, is this going to be a rejection? Is it going to be an acceptance? So all the rejections I got, of course, I would cry. At
Mhm.
some point, I even stopped crying. I was like, okay, okay, be like
Mhm.
saying, no matter. And then I'll go on
You
LinkedIn
pick
and then
yourself up and
the
try
people that
again.
are able
Yeah.
to tell their stories will tell
Uh,
you that they had like 19 some I saw somebody that said he had 150 rejections. I'm like, okay,
hmm.
wow, okay, I've gotten
Wow.
maybe just 4 or 5. I'm still learning. Let me keep
Yeah.
going. So
Hmm.
yeah, but usually most people on LinkedIn would not tell you those kind of things. They will
Yeah.
tell
They
you
only show the
everybody
good part.
tells you like the good parts,
Hmm.
which of course is human nature.
Hmm.
But at the same time it's good for people to like understand that these things
Hmm.
are not so easy.
Yeah.
They are very, very difficult to get.
Hmm.
So the period was very, very heart wrenching, like I
Hmm.
said. I was waiting, I was praying. Oh
Hmm.
God, all my prayer points in church. God will be so tired. I'm sure if he has a record, he'll be like, today you prayed for admission, today admission, today. Like I stopped praying about anything. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like, God, if you give me this thing, God, if you
Mm.
give me this thing, God will be like, oh yeah, take it, leave me alone, let me rest. Everything every day, even in Boston,
Hmm.
like Lagos traffic when I'm going to
Yeah.
work, when I'm thinking all my life, like when I'm
Mm.
thinking about my life, I'm like, God, please help me. Because in my head, I'm like, I have these big dreams. I'm
Hmm.
not from a rich home, not so
Hmm.
privileged to fund
Mm.
those kind of dreams.
Yeah.
My parents would never be able to afford that kind of fees to go
Hmm.
abroad. So the only way out that I
It's true
felt was the only way
scholarship.
out for me was going to be through scholarship. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it felt more personal. It felt like a do or die affair to
Mm-hmm.
me because I looked at my profession in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, not just my profession, every profession in Nigeria. I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the best I could get in Nigeria. I looked at what I wanted to do. I didn't want to practice my profession
Mm-hmm.
clinically. I didn't want to remain in a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do research.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at how the research system is in Nigeria. It's
Mm-hmm.
very fragile, very
Yeah.
there's no funding,
Mm-hmm.
underdeveloped. I felt like I can't achieve any dreams that I have here.
Yeah.
So my only way out was going to get this to go outside of Nigeria. And the only way for me to
Yeah.
go outside of Nigeria, I don't have generational wealth
We're
or
not
I have
Otedola's
one
children.
trust fund somewhere. So I felt like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
education, this looks
Yeah.
like the only way. And I've
Mm-hmm.
crossed the first hurdle. I
Mm-hmm.
have my good grades. So
Mm-hmm.
this is another thing for me to fight for.
Yeah.
So I kept fighting. So I kept waiting. I was
Mm-hmm.
praying so hard. And then the first acceptance I had was surprisingly Gates. That
Oh
was the first
wow.
one that came in.
Mm.
Because Gates gave their result like 3 days after the interview.
Well,
So
that's pretty fast.
72 hours.
But the 72 hours felt like 4
I'm
years.
telling you, I'll be like, okay, thank God today has gone.
Mm-hmm.
If I have an event that day,
Yeah.
it takes my mind off it. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
happy that okay,
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow is another new day.
Mm-hmm.
I started dreaming about scholarships. Do you know, it
Mm.
was serious. Like I feel like I attach importance to things that I should not. Of course, they're
Mm-hmm.
important, but not just even about scholarship. Other
Mm-hmm.
things in my life
Mm.
are also this way.
Yeah.
I get worried about unnecessary things. I
Mm-hmm.
could worry about where I kept my key.
Mm-hmm.
Then till now, I would just be sleeping and then it occurred to me that
You've not
maybe
found
did
the
I
key.
close the incubator
Mm-hmm.
door in the lab? Like
Mm-hmm.
something random. And then I stay up all night worried about it. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
start emailing people in the lab. Please, if you're in the lab, help me check if I closed the incubator door. But I closed
Uh-huh.
it.
But you're just like,
So yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know what that is. I know
Mm.
it's not I don't think it's a disorder. It's
Yeah.
not that bad, but
Mm.
it's a problem. Like it could be a problem to me. And so
Mm.
that period I was so worried, I was so
Mm.
anxious. And then I got that email. I got the email at work.
Wow.
I didn't know how to act. I was like, do I scream? Do I maintain steeze?
Mm-hmm.
Do I remain calm and
Mm-hmm.
composed? If I scream, these people will say, what's wrong with this girl? And so it was like I was in an office, you know
Yeah.
how like really big office where
Yeah.
everybody was. I was like, how do I scream? And again, I don't want people to know my next move. You know, as
Mm-hmm.
Nigerians,
Yeah.
you want to hide your
Keep it
next
low
move.
key. Yeah.
So, well, I don't want them to know my next move. How do
Mm-hmm.
I? But I'm too happy. I can't
Mm-hmm.
contain my happiness. I can explode. What do I do? I went outside. I called like my mentors that had
Mm-hmm.
been with me.
Yeah.
Called. I didn't want to tell my family just
Mm-hmm.
on call. I felt like it was too big an information
Yeah.
to just tell them over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I started drafting out ways to act.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do it as a surprise. Then I bought shawarma. I went outside. There was
You
a
deserve
shawarma spot.
it.
I bought shawarma. I bought ice cream. I was like, okay, I've gotten this one.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was walking on the road,
Mm-hmm.
because I went to our Ikeja branch
Mm-hmm.
office. So as I was going back, I was passing through that market and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know when Okada almost hit me. I was too happy. I was not looking when I was
Mm-hmm.
crossing the road. And then the Okada and I shouted, you know they look, Mumu girl, you know they look. My dad was like, all of you should insult me. I don't care. I'll receive all the insults. Today is a good day. Even in the bus, normally I used to always fight the conductor when they're not
Mm-hmm.
giving my change.
Yeah.
Conductor, that day I was chilled. I was like, if you
Mm-hmm.
like, hold my change. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to the UK.
Nothing can spoil my day. Like literally, I like that
I was so
energy.
excited, and then I
Mm-hmm.
went home, and then I wanted to be dramatic. My mom was around.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was around, but he was in the room. So when I came in, I kept it like a moody face. I was crying. And then my mother was like, what's that? Because they knew I've been having interviews. And then they were like, oh, did it not work? And I told her, oh, it did not work. She was like, I could see the disappointment in her face. But then she was still trying to encourage me. So
Yeah.
she was like, oh, don't worry. There are other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes I've told you, Ibadan is a good school. If you like, it's a good school. We'll go and take masters there. That they offer your course. Because we've also checked that they offered like not they didn't offer cancer, but then they offered like chemical pathology, which was also something I was interested in.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, I could do a master's in chemical pathology. And then when she said it, the way she said it now made me feel bad that I was putting her through this
I'm even
because
surprised that you could cry on command. Like,
I was not tears were not
okay,
falling,
okay,
but
okay.
I was sad. Like
Mm-hmm.
you see that I was sad,
Yeah.
and because I was stressed from work, so even
Mm-hmm.
my eyes looked, and I had not been
Mm-hmm.
sleeping. I think that period I
Yeah.
wasn't sleeping well. I
Mm-hmm.
looked sick.
Yeah.
So my mom was like, "Oh, that's sorry. Don't worry." And then my sister too was there when I was crying.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister was like, "That Kamsi, don't worry."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was. So I now started feeling bad. I felt like I'm putting them through a lot, and I was scared because my mom is hypertensive. So I was like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what if I say something that will make her?"
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay." I then told them I was joking. And my mom is so dramatic. My mom then knelt down. I was rolling on the floor. She was like, Jesus, Igwe, Kele.
I love it.
My mother was screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Our neighbor and I came and I
Yeah.
was like, what happened? My mother and I told to shut up. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
something good has happened. Because I told her not tell anybody
Yeah.
yet. So we just told them that something good.
Mm-hmm.
And then my
Yeah.
dad was so happy. They were so
Aw.
excited. That was like the first one. My
Yeah.
mother was like, oh, so my daughter will go to Cambridge. My own daughter will go to Cambridge. And then that
Aw.
was like the first offer I had. Then
Yeah.
like a month later, I had MasterCard.
Oh
I
yeah.
gave it to I showed my mom. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got Oxford, I told her. My mom was like, oh wow, my daughter. She could not even keep the secret. My
Yeah.
parents, they could not. They went around telling everybody that my daughter has 3 scholarships.
Mm.
And the way my parents used to describe my scholarship, especially
Mhm.
my dad, I've tried to explain it severally to them,
Mhm.
but he has his own version, and that's the version that he wants to keep.
Yeah.
So he
Mhm.
tells them that Bill Gates called me and gave me scholarship.
Mm.
I'm like, Bill Gates called me
I mean, it's the
where?
Gates Cambridge scholarship,
But
so Bill Gates might as
from
well have
where
called you.
Bill Gates called me? That's what he told them. And
Mhm.
then that that she has Oxford, that they are calling her, all of them want
Mhm.
her. And now
Yeah.
she has to make her choice. I'm like, that is not like that. It did not happen like that. But that is the version he wants to
Yeah.
keep. So
Mhm.
yeah, but I was happy that they were happy.
Yeah.
And so when I got all those things, when I got the first one, I
Mhm.
wasn't it like eased all that tension I had.
Mhm.
So I wasn't really bothered.
Yeah.
And of course I wanted to see the outcome of the other ones. But I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a good scholarship. This is a
Mhm.
good, fantastic course that I want to
Yeah.
do. So when I got the MasterCard Cambridge, I was like, okay, of course the excitement had
Died
dwindled
down a
because
bit.
of the first one.
Yeah.
And then I got Oxford.
Mhm.
From excitement, it became confusion. Like you
Mm.
said, it's a problem.
Yeah. It's a
There's like
good
the first
problem to have.
problem. It's actually not a good problem
Really?
because in the sense of it, it's good, but it
Yeah.
can be very like I lost sleep over it because
Mm.
I kept thinking I don't want to make any bad mistake.
Yeah.
I liked Oxford. All my friends, or not even say friends, all the people that at the time were my mentors I had
Mhm.
connected with
Yeah.
were most majorly based in Oxford. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I would really like to come to Oxford. You
Mhm.
know, Harry Potter, my magical things. But then I was like, and then there's Cambridge. How
Mm.
do I make my choice? So
Yeah.
it was a problem, but it was a serious. I didn't know how serious that problem would be. I
Mhm.
prayed for those kind of problems. In fact,
Mhm.
I had my wallpaper then,
Mhm.
so I'm very prophetic.
Mhm.
I have faith.
Yeah.
So then I had the year where I got rejected.
Mhm.
Somebody had posted about her scholarship offers
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, and she had 3 scholarships. She
Mhm.
had Mastercard Oxford, she had Mastercard Cambridge, and she had
Mhm.
Chivney. And
Oh.
then she posted just her testimony like about the process.
Yeah.
And then I made a screenshot of that, and it was my
Mhm.
wallpaper
Mhm.
of that her testimony. I even
Yeah.
emailed her. I
Mhm.
messaged that, tell her that she's somebody that I really admired and I really
Mhm.
like this, that I
Mhm.
got rejected this
Mhm.
year, but I'm hoping to apply next year. And I
Mhm.
hope that this is going to be my story.
Yeah.
So I had the screenshot. So when it happened, I was like, oh, God is good, God is
Mhm.
faithful.
Yeah.
Like everything just happened not
At the
really,
right
yeah, at the
time, like
right
you aligned.
time. and
Yeah.
and then I was done with service. I was going to
Mhm.
be done with service.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do service because I felt like I was like, oh God,
What's the point?
what's the point? But my dad was like, no, you don't know. In
Mhm.
case in
Yeah.
future, like
Mhm.
now, you did not hear of the minister that they bounced
Yeah.
back because of
Mhm.
service. And what I was like,
Yeah.
Daddy, I know I don't have intentions
To go into.
to go into politics. But then it was like,
Yeah.
well, still do it. My
Mhm.
daddy just insists that everybody
Yeah.
would serve. So at
Yeah.
that point, it felt like the perfect timing.
Mhm.
I was going to be done with service. Then I
Mhm.
was having all these choices to make.
Yeah.
Then I made my decision. I made my decision after I consulted lots of people. I was asking
Mhm.
questions. Even my referees were confused. because they're like, oh, what do we tell you? Because
Yeah.
these two courses are good, but then one is a research master's, one is a thought master's.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what I really wanted to do research, so maybe I
Mhm.
should go for the research
Yeah.
master's. But then what really solidified my choice was my mentor.
Mhm.
So I have the mentor I told you that's also in my lab that had
Yeah.
studied in Oxford for his
Mhm.
master's. So I spoke to him because I had asked people at Oxford. They'll
Mhm.
tell me come to Oxford. Oxford is the
Mhm.
best school in the world.
Yeah.
I would ask people at Cambridge. They'll tell me come to Cambridge. Cambridge is the best school in the world. You know, there's
Mhm.
like the Oxbridge rivalry too.
Yeah.
So everybody was biased in their response.
Mhm.
The another person I reached out to, she sent me like a long voice note of how my course is the best course in Cambridge. Blah blah blah. That the biomedical science is Cambridge is the hub. Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. Another person is like, oh, Oxford disease. Oxford. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. I'll listen to this one. I'm like, okay, I've made up my mind. It's Cambridge. I'll
Mhm.
listen to this. I'm like, okay, now it's
Yeah.
Oxford. I was
Okay.
so confused.
Yeah.
So I decided that my mentor was going to be in the best position because he
Mhm.
has tasted both worlds
Yeah.
and we have the same exact research interest.
Mhm.
So I reached out to him. We spoke. He didn't want to make a choice for me, but
Mhm.
he listed out all the things I should consider,
Yeah.
and then he ended up telling me that if I was his younger sister
Mhm.
and he would want to advise his younger sister,
Mhm.
he would tell me to choose Cambridge
Mhm.
because of all of these things.
Yeah.
So and then my heart knew that Cambridge was supposed to be the right place because of
Mhm.
all of the reasons,
Mhm.
but then my head was like, okay, Oxford,
Yeah.
Oxford.
Because that was your dream
It has been
school.
Oxford.
It has always been
But at
Oxford.
the end of the day, I felt
Mhm.
like I would still, it would still have been good,
Mhm.
regardless of which of the,
Yeah.
yeah, they're both good schools.
Mhm.
They would open equal doors for
Yeah.
you.
You
There's,
can't go wrong with
yeah, you
either of
can't go
them.
wrong.
Yeah.
It's not like you go to a place and they're like, oh, because it is Cambridge and it's not Oxford, we
Mhm.
will not take you, or because it's Oxford and it's not Cambridge. They're
Mhm.
both in the same league of
Yeah.
schools. They are also in the same league with the Ivy League. So they
Mhm.
would give you very equal opportunities.
Yeah.
So I thought about that, but I'm still very happy with my choice because of
Yeah.
things that have panned out like
Mhm.
after my masters. Because that's also
Mhm.
another issue.
Yeah.
After your masters, what
Mhm.
next? So yeah, I
Mhm.
think I'm where God wanted me to be,
Yeah.
especially because of the circumstances surrounding my coming to Cambridge.
Mhm.
You know, I told you that I didn't know about Cambridge. I just
Yeah.
learned about it. And then even my supervisor, my course
Mhm.
was supposed to be I suppose I needed to have a research supervisor to
Yeah.
do my program.
Mhm.
Then I reached out to her. We had never met. She was
Mhm.
so sweet. She
Mhm.
responded immediately. I didn't even know that was like an interview or something like that. I thought it was
Mhm.
just a conversation where we were
Yeah.
speaking about her research. So I was really very genuine that I don't know things.
Mhm.
That things she would ask me, do you know them? I'm like, oh, I don't know them. If I knew it was an interview, I would have liked to maybe impress,
Yeah.
maybe read more about those things. But
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I really haven't done this thing in a practical sense of it, but this
Mhm.
is like the theoretical knowledge I have about it.
Mhm.
And with all of these things, she still gave me the go ahead to apply.
Mhm.
And she has been so nice to me.
Yeah.
Of course, my GATE scholarship had to do with nomination. So it
Mhm.
means that they had to nominate you. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that the department had to nominate. And
Mhm.
then all through that process, like I felt like it wasn't something I that could have been me
Mhm.
because like what were the odds that she would just take a chance on me from
Mm.
Nigeria
Yeah.
with little or nothing? I felt like I didn't have anything to offer at the time.
I mean,
Maybe,
sometimes we can be our own
yeah,
hardest
yeah,
critics because
exactly.
you might not see yourself as a big deal, but then people are actually seeing you as a
As a
big deal
big
just from them looking at your work, your track record, and everything.
yeah, true. And then when I came in, she got me a bicycle.
Yeah.
She's been so sweet. Like she's been so sweet, really
Mhm.
sweet, and she has really guided me.
Mhm.
She's very patient, very,
Mhm.
very patient. Because when I came in initially, I started feeling like I wasn't supposed to be here.
Mhm.
Like, you know how Cambridge is.
Mhm.
It's too
Yeah.
intellectually like rigorous.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's smart.
Yeah.
Because of course they admit like the best of the best.
Mhm.
So you're literally competing with people that were best in universities like Harvard. Like in
Mhm.
our Gates cohort, we have many people that came from Harvard. We have
Yeah.
people coming from Yale, people coming from top universities in the
Yeah.
world. There's me
Like there are a
coming
lot
from
of them.
University of Calabar. So at some point, I started feeling like I didn't deserve to be
Mhm.
there because in our lab meetings, people would, contribute to things,
Mhm.
conversations, and then I'm just there looking at. I don't even understand what they're saying. They would say
Mhm.
like they may use like the short term. Let's
Mhm.
say for example, they may say something like, ADC. And then it's me that don't even know what ADC is in the first
Yeah.
place. And then I'm like, oh, ADC, okay, okay. So yeah, every time after every lab meeting, like I have to go back and then I'm thinking about my life. I'm like, really,
Yeah.
was this the right choice?
Mm.
Should I have not just maybe gone to uni lab or something? Because it started to feel like there was pressure. I started giving like pressure on my nobody was pressuring me. I was
Yeah.
pressuring myself to like try to understand these things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like that for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody comes feeling like an
Overwhelmed.
imposter.
Yeah.
They're feeling like they don't deserve to be here. Because speaking with other students that were also from these top schools,
Yeah.
they also feel that way at every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but at the end of the day, I feel like they wouldn't have taken a chance on you if they didn't see the value you were bringing to 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 them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they must have seen something and they acknowledge that your voice is important. You needed to be there. So
Yeah.
that's why you're here. And so of course you cannot have it figured out at once.
Yeah.
So I'm now trying to be a little bit more lenient with myself. I'm trying to tell myself that okay, you're not doing badly. My supervisor is always so sweet to me. She'd be like, oh, you've done so well.
Yeah.
You're picking up. Your results are nice. Your experiments are great. Blah blah blah. I think in my head, I'm like, are you sure this one is not whining me? But then I'm understanding that she's not whining because even
Yeah,
other
she's
people in
not.
the lab are also like in our lab meetings, they've seen my results. They're like, okay, you're really doing well. But I'm not seeing it. And it's good. I think it's good to also
Yeah.
see because
Yeah.
of course if you're also seeing yourself the way they're seeing you,
Yeah.
then you probably would not make any efforts to want to improve. So yeah, but it's been good. It's been really great.
Yeah, it's always kind of hard finding a balance between keeping yourself on your toes and being complacent. So
Yeah.
it's always good to like strike that balance. Because even with me, when I first came, I was a bit overwhelmed with everything,
Yeah.
like trying to settle down, then classes, like everything was seeming so foreign to me, and I had to like learn new statistical packages like R. Like I never imagined I would be coding.
I still haven't learned R. So my
Yeah.
institute organized a free R class
Mhm.
for us. And
Yeah.
then the R class, they advertised it as a beginner's guide.
Mhm.
Then I was like, okay, I'm a beginner, I should
Mhm.
go. And then the day we went there with our laptops
Yeah.
ready, they're like, oh, how many of you have used R before? And everybody's hands were up except me. Like, but I thought we were all beginners. What are you people doing? What are you people
Is there a
doing?
different definition for the word beginner?
And then when the classes started, everybody was following. They're like, oh, so the vector, the data. I'm like, okay. And then I'm still looking for where the vector is. I'm like, okay, what did you press?
Yeah.
What was the vector? So at the end of the year, I stopped the class because it
Yeah.
was not helping me because it was faster than I could grasp. So I just said, I took the materials from the class and started learning on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was much more easier. At least I understand like the first three classes they've taught so far from
Yeah.
YouTube, not really from the class. And now I've just been too busy, but I intend to like continue
Yeah.
because it's good to learn these skills. They're actually very important.
Yeah. They
They're
are.
important. The world now is being very digital. Everything is becoming more digital. So you
Yeah.
need all those statistical packages, regardless of the field. Like even in research, cancer research,
Yeah.
we use it. Like so, it's just very important.
Yeah.
And I really, have you like really mastered it now, or you're still
I don't
learning?
even know if I'll call myself a master, but I would say I'm maybe intermediate.
Okay,
Yeah.
intermediate is
Because
is good.
fortunately enough, the course I was using it for
Yeah.
econometrics, they allowed us to take open book tests. So we could have our codes
Oh,
pre-written and then we
yeah.
could just adjust it to fit the question that you had to
Okay.
answer.
Yeah.
So if you know how the codes work, if you understand the sequence and everything, you can easily edit it
Yeah.
right on time.
Intermediate
Yeah.
is good.
Hmm.
I think that's the best so
Yeah.
far. You can get better maybe
Yeah,
if
you
you want to
can.
take it a notch higher. But
Yeah.
for now, I won't even describe myself as a beginner because I'm still not a beginner. Like from the beginners class we had, I'm not a beginner. If there's anything below beginner, but I feel like again it's exposure.
Yeah,
So
it is.
from Nigeria,
Mhm.
especially attending schools like Unical and other federal universities. I'm not shading my school. I love my
No
school. I
shade, no
love
shade to Nigerian
Unical.
universities, no
that's
shade
that's
at
the school
all.
that produced
We love
me,
you
my
guys.
alma mater. But yeah, I think for most federal universities, they don't
Mhm.
even computer science students don't even know how to code
Yeah.
because it's not incorporated. We
Mhm.
we are always theory, theory, theory. There's really no practical. So I had no experience with coding, even with computer. I think the first computer I had was in final year, like in my life. In my house, I didn't have.
Yeah.
My parents had laptops, but or my mom had a laptop for her
Mm-hmm.
school, but then I don't know, I just never was exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a private junior school, so I had
Mm-hmm.
that exposure in
Yeah.
private junior school. But the most we did was MS Word, and
Mm-hmm.
then I was always writing my stories. I used to write short stories then,
Mm-hmm.
so I would just go there to write my stories and save
Mm-hmm.
it and play Mavis Bacon, the Bacon or whatever. That
Yeah.
was the only exposure I had.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to a government secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
Our computer lab was like, it's always sealed. You just come and
Mm.
then you look at it, and then like we're not allowed to
To use
operate on
them,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
And then of course university, I
Mm-hmm.
studied something that didn't have anything to do with computers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was also very difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
coming here and having to learn, I learned most of the things I know, even ordinary Microsoft Office. I learned
Mm-hmm.
them on my own when I had my laptop in final year. I
Mm-hmm.
started learning how to use MS Word, MS
Mm-hmm.
Excel, PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
So now coming here and I've not finished learning MS Excel and all the tricks with Excel. And then we're not talking about coding. It was
Mm-hmm.
so difficult. So I won't describe myself as a beginner. I think I'm like a little less than a beginner.
Is there anything
But
less than a beginner?
okay, let's say there's
You're a
beginner
beginner.
one and beginner two. I mean beginner one.
I mean, you've already even made effort by watching
Hmm.
YouTube videos. There's
Yeah.
some people that have
At least I
never.
understand the terms,
Yeah.
understand like how to like create a vector,
Mm-hmm.
all those beginner things,
Yeah.
the type of data, the different
Mm-hmm.
data structures. I
Mm-hmm.
understand these things. Something like I envy people that know how to use codes, like answer all
Mm-hmm.
their questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so nice. It's
Something
cool.
you learn with time, like as you keep practicing it, you
Yeah.
get more used to the whole interface and how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the whole process like preparing to move to the UK? Like from handling the visa applications to
Yeah.
booking the travel and to getting from the airport to Cambridge? Did the scholarship help to cover those costs? Like the flights, the transit, the visa fees, all of that.
Yeah, so Gates Cambridge scholarship, like I said, very supportive.
Yeah.
So they pay for everything. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to spend a dime.
Yeah.
Anything you spend on, they
Mm-hmm.
refund you.
Yeah.
So for me, I spent my money on tuberculosis tests,
Mm-hmm.
but they refunded me.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
they
quite
asked us,
similar.
yeah. So I think why I spent my money was because it's in our local currency,
Mm-hmm.
they can make payments,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to pay in a local currency.
Yeah.
So they asked us to pay, and then they refund us when we come here,
Yeah.
converting it to pounds. So I paid for my tuberculosis test. I went for
Mm-hmm.
my test. I was so excited. Like that period, I was just my mother. Anytime I'm leaving the house, my mother will say, "Look well before you cross. So don't cross the road. Don't talk to anybody."
No, those warnings are so valid
Yeah,
because Nigeria could just happen at any time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was always very careful in the
Mm-hmm.
bus. I was not struggling with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If I before my normal self, you cannot drag seat with me. If
Mm-hmm.
I've sat down there, I cannot shift for anybody. For that period, I was like, okay, you want me to shift? Okay, I'll shift. You don't want to stay in the window? Okay, stay in the window. You want to? Okay, just do. If somebody steps on me, I'm like, oh, sorry. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was just happy and excited
Mm-hmm.
about
Yeah.
my next phase
Mm-hmm.
in life. I had like list of things I was going to
Mm-hmm.
buy. I and my friend,
Yeah.
FK.
Yeah.
So of course we've known each other from
Uh-huh.
Roots. We were
Yeah.
roommates in our Roots
Mm-hmm.
interview. So we became friends and
Mm-hmm.
we were planning together. She also had the issues with choosing between Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah.
And then she had to choose Cambridge. So it was almost like we took all our steps together.
Mm-hmm.
We write our list and send to each other to
Yeah.
add things or remove things. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, okay, I need to buy my Bone Street hair.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
personal money was
Yeah.
spent on vanities.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot food.
No, you know that making hair is quite expensive. So
Yeah,
that's not like,
actually.
that's
No,
kind
now
of,
it's an
yeah, it's
investment.
an investment. So,
When I told my mother the price I got the
mm-hmm.
hair, she was like, wow. I told her, mommy, no, it's an investment. Look at
Mm-hmm.
it like an investment. So yeah, I said I was going to, because then I was saving all my NYC allowance, because I
Mm-hmm.
told you I had like two jobs. They were not
Yeah.
paying well, like not like
Mm-hmm.
they were paying me so well, but
Mm-hmm.
because I had the NYC allowance and I had
Yeah.
some money from this other job, and I
Mm-hmm.
also had money from my main NYC BPA, so it's
Yeah.
like three pool of income.
Mm-hmm.
So for my NYC allowance, that was what I budgeted for my hair. So I just saved
Okay.
it for the 12 months and I bought
Yeah.
my hair with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to market. I bought things. I kept buying things. Buy
Mm-hmm.
hair straightener.
Mm-hmm.
Buy. I was buying both things that mattered and things that didn't
Yeah.
matter. I now ended up not even bringing food. So the first
Mm.
days here, I was hungry. I
Oh,
had no food stuff, nothing, because
wow.
people that I had spoken to told me that I shouldn't bother buying food stuff. Now buy them here. But I
Really,
didn't
but
know
African
that.
food stuff
Yeah,
are
I
kind of like scarce
exactly.
here.
that information, please don't listen to them. When they tell you
Yeah.
that food stuff that you can buy here,
Mm-hmm.
just still bring things, especially
Yeah.
things like spices,
Yeah.
because
Spices.
it's difficult to get like local spice here,
Mm-hmm.
especially in places like Cambridge. In London, it
Mm-hmm.
might be easier,
Yeah.
but in Cambridge is more niche. There's
Mm-hmm.
more, yeah, so it's difficult. You can
Yeah.
get things like nut cubes or curry, but then other things are very difficult. So I didn't have
Yeah.
those things, and so it was. I just kept eating only rice. Like so
Mm-hmm.
far, I've just been rice and pasta will grow on my head because that's the only thing I've been eating: rice,
Honestly.
pasta, because I don't have tools for other kind
Mm-hmm.
of foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then moi moi. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't pay for all these things I'm talking about. Please, they don't pay for your hair and your food.
They don't pay for the hair, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, this ones were my personal vanities. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but they paid for my tuberculosis test, they paid
Mm-hmm.
for my visa,
Mm-hmm.
they paid for my health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
they paid for my flights
Mm-hmm.
to and okay, yeah, two, yeah, please,
Yeah.
not through.
Mm-hmm.
They pay, but the scholarship covers like your return ticket flights
Yeah.
coming, but then they paid for it. Then what again? I think that's pretty much everything you need to
Yeah.
come here.
Mm-hmm.
And my visa day, I went there so excited.
Yeah.
I went in the morning. I was taking precautions. If they
Mm-hmm.
say 10 o'clock, I'm there 9 o'clock. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear story. I'll
Mm-hmm.
wait. I don't mind waiting. I'm waiting. And again, at the time, I had finished my NYC,
Mm-hmm.
so I was free. The
Mm-hmm.
only job I had was the other part-time job I was
Yeah.
doing, and of course, it was part-time. So
Mm-hmm.
I was even happy. I was just excited, and then I told my boss because,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I felt the right thing to do is to.
Let them
It's a
know.
very good company. I
Yeah.
enjoyed my time working there, so there was no. It's not like it's a place where I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed working there. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought I let them know like two
Mm-hmm.
months ahead that
Mm-hmm.
I was leaving so that they could get another person to fill my spot.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so excited for me. Everybody was happy.
Mm-hmm.
My other boss, he was so excited. And then he was trying to tell me all the people he knew in Cambridge and Oxford. And
Oh.
luckily or unluckily, I already knew them because I had been emailing people on LinkedIn. So I was like, anybody mentions something, that person is my
Mm-hmm.
friend. That is my mentor. I was like, okay, yeah. So yeah, it was really nice. I enjoyed that phase
Mm-hmm.
because at that phase, there's peace.
Yeah.
At that phase, you know that everything is settled.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that comes your way, you're like, oh, I'll soon leave you.
Yeah.
Anybody that does anyhow, I'm like, I'll soon leave you. You can treat me anyhow. I'm always still worried about the prices of things in Nigeria because no matter how you're going to
Yeah.
escape, because you've not even escaped.
Yeah. You still
Nigeria
have
is your
people.
country.
Yeah.
You'd always go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then your parents are there, your loved
Mm-hmm.
ones are there.
True.
So no matter what, you're still going to feel the burn of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like even here, I
Mm-hmm.
I feel it when chicken cost is high. I feel it
Yeah.
when everything is high
Mm-hmm.
because you have to hear from home. You're hearing
Yeah.
from home. What
That's
affects
true.
them is affecting you. So
Mm-hmm.
at that time, my joy was always not even my joy is always when people react badly to me. Maybe when
Mm-hmm.
they treat me badly.
Mm.
So I'm always telling in my head, I'm like, I'll soon leave you. Maybe if you shout at me at work,
Uh-huh.
I'll still leave you.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, anyhow, if you like shout
Mm-hmm.
at me, if you like overwork me,
Mm-hmm.
I'll still leave you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it felt.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool. And then I was dashing stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
My siblings, my
Yeah.
sisters were like, oh, give me this shoe. I'm like, oh, take it. Give me that, take it. And then coming here, because I had heard that I don't need to bring my clothes, that I won't
Mm-hmm.
wear them.
Yeah, I
So I
heard
was
that as well.
careful. I left most of my clothes because
Mm.
I was working in a corporate kind of organization, so
Mm-hmm.
most of my clothes were corporate,
Mm.
especially and in Nigeria, I didn't have thick corporate clothes. I had
Mm-hmm.
mostly chiffon
Yeah.
clothes because the weather is always hot,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't wear that kind of dress here
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because here is very cold. So I
Mm-hmm.
left all my clothes at home, and then I started buying stuff
Mm-hmm.
here. And then I came here. I came here with lots of vanities. I came with hairs, came with shoes. I came with nail polish,
Mm-hmm.
hair straightener,
Yeah.
hot comb. Like I was all for my steez and beauty,
Mm-hmm.
never to be cut off
Fresh, I
until
know, right?
hunger started. And then my friend was telling me, Kamsi, bring food, bring crayfish, bring this.
Mm-hmm.
I brought crayfish, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't properly plan for feeding.
Yeah.
And then the first day I came here, I was so hungry. And
Mm-hmm.
then they took me to a Nigerian restaurant, and then I
Mm-hmm.
went there. And then the food was nice, fried,
Mm-hmm.
just jollof rice. And then the pay was £15. And then I ate the first plate. I'm like, this thing is not reaching me anywhere. and it's 15
And you know
pounds.
when you're new, you're still going to be converting it to naira.
Yes,
That's 30K
no matter how new
for a
I
plate
am,
of rice.
no matter how, as long as I'm Nigerian, I still convert things to naira. Even till now, I
Yeah.
still convert. Just that now, I now have a sense of what it means that this is this cost in pounds. You know
Yeah.
that it's not so expensive, and then you know that even if you convert it to naira, it might be expensive in naira, but it's not expensive in
In
pounds. Like
pounds,
here,
yeah.
but here that 15 pounds is expensive in pounds and expensive in naira.
Yeah.
15 pounds for a plate of food is actually a lot.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, this 15 pounds. If I buy chicken,
Mm-hmm.
£2. Buy tomato, buy this,
Yeah. And you cook
cook
on your
my
own.
food,
Yeah.
and I'll eat enough. That
Mm-hmm.
small portion he gave me, I would
Yeah.
eat like how many times? So that day, I
Mm-hmm.
decided that that was the end. Okay,
Yeah.
after that day, we went for Gates orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So Gates have this thing where you go for orientation for 3 days
Mm-hmm.
outside of Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Peak District
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, and then we stayed there, and they were going to feed us.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, coming here, I had like £100
Mm-hmm.
because Gates gave us like some allowance when we
Mm-hmm.
came for people that came with nothing. But that was
Yeah.
after the orientation.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us like £1,000
Mm-hmm.
to keep until our next
Yeah.
stipend.
Mm-hmm.
So by then I had not gotten the £1,000. So I
Mm-hmm.
had my £100.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, I won't even need money because
Mm-hmm.
there's food. Then in my head I was like, oh wow, there's food. I had big dreams. And then the first day, the breakfast was going well. It was nice. It had baked beans. But in my head, I was like, I was not understanding something. I'm like, what is this? And then I saw sausage. I was like, okay, I really like sausage back
Yeah.
home. And then I tasted the sausage. I was like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Everything was just testing. Like people around my table were like, why is your face like that? And I'm like, you don't understand. And then some things that look like grasses. I was like, what are all these?
No
I'm not
grasses.
herbivorous. We are human beings. We don't eat grasses. And then I was like, "Hey, breakfast wasn't great, but
Mm-hmm.
lunch would be greater." And it's a sandwich, sandwich and chips. Or like, is this all? I thought maybe
Mm-hmm.
they were prepping us for the
Yeah.
main food,
Mm-hmm.
only for them to say this is. I asked someone, and they're like, "This is actually what British
Yeah.
lunch is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sandwich."
Mm-hmm.
It's like cold, very cold sandwich.
Yeah.
The sandwich was so cold, like
Mm-hmm.
they brought it from the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had to eat it, and after that, I ate chips, and then I
Mm-hmm.
drank water. That was for dinner. It was also the same thing. The first I saw stew,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh wow, they said it's rice and stew. I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is something I can relate with. Then I tasted the stew. And it tasted like, when you blend tomato from the
Mm-hmm.
blender and you spread
Yeah.
it on the rice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it tasted like.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh Jesus. I had to, even the pepper that they said was pepper was
Mm-hmm.
not peppering.
Yeah.
It was very bland.
Mm-hmm.
I put like 3 sachets. It was still not hot.
Oh.
And then people around me was like, is that not hot? Is that not too much for you? It's like, so yeah, I think the food aspect
Yeah.
is something that I would never adjust to. It's just already in Nigeria, I was very picky about food.
Mm-hmm.
So back then here, it's now even worse.
Yeah.
So I've just resigned to fate that as long as I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just have to cook my food.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier. It's even cheaper.
Yeah.
You get to cook what you like
Mm-hmm.
and then eat how you want to eat and save money while doing that.
Yeah.
But then with the weather was really cold.
Yeah.
Like when we came here,
I didn't even listen to people's advice when they said don't bring your clothes. I actually brought all my some of
I
my Nigerian
remember, did
clothes.
we speak before you
Yeah,
came?
we spoke when we
Yeah,
first came in. Yeah.
okay.
And I brought all my Nigerian clothes. I could not even wear any of them. Like they were all in my wardrobe for the entire duration. Like I've never worn a lot
Yeah.
of them.
If
Just
you're
my
coming for the
gowns.
first time, just dash them out to your village people because it's only going to be helpful like
Yeah.
during summer. Like now,
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
dress I'm putting on, it's part of my Nigerian
Yeah.
clothes, like the
Mm-hmm.
entire fit. But
Mm-hmm.
then I only started wearing it now because the
Yeah.
weather is like
Mm-hmm.
hot and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but the weather I've been able to adjust to it. You
Yeah.
just learn how to wear thicker clothes, you
Mm-hmm.
buy good
Thermals.
thermals and all of these things, winter jackets, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But the food, it's difficult. It's good
Yeah.
if you're somebody that's open to trying new things. Like my
Mm-hmm.
friend, she's very open.
Mm-hmm.
She can eat. There are lots of things she's eating, like all those grasses.
Mm-hmm.
She pack all of them in her food,
Mm-hmm.
and she likes them. She's very open to
Mm-hmm.
new food. Me, I'm
Yeah.
very like before I even eat other foods in Nigeria that I'm not
Mm-hmm.
used to. Like I really have to prepare to
Yeah.
what is not to talk of the ones here that
Mm-hmm.
are now bland. very bland.
Yeah, they're
So
very
yeah,
new to you
yeah.
because you're not really used to this type of food. So
And
yeah.
then the people here, they're
Mm,
also very welcoming.
mm,
Like the people in my lab were very
mm,
welcoming.
yeah.
The people, the first day I came here and I was carrying my luggage, I saw one woman and then she smiled at me. She was like, then I was like, what kind of smile was that? It was so short. Like the smile didn't last long.
Mm-hmm.
It was like for 1 second.
Yeah.
And then it was just her teeth. I'm like, do I smile back? Do I
Mm-hmm.
greet? I was like, oh, good afternoon, ma. Nobody answered
Did you
me.
say good afternoon?
It was the first day I came here. Like the first day, I was literally coming from my
Uh-huh.
college with my
Yeah.
box and my
Mm-hmm.
key,
Mm-hmm.
and then she just met me. Maybe, of course, she would see my box, and then she knew I was coming in new.
Mm-hmm.
So she just smiled briefly,
Yeah.
and then I was like, "Good afternoon, ma,"
Mm,
and there was no response.
mm,
Then I noticed it again. I greeted good afternoon, and nobody responded.
mm-hmm.
But then I noticed that everybody was saying hi,
Mm-hmm.
even when you see like your elder, even my supervisor,
Yeah.
hi, hi. So that's how I collected my good afternoon and good morning. I kept in my
You're
pocket
back.
and then saying hi. Even when I came, I used to call my supervisor, Dr. Micah, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Micah, and then everybody calls her Micah. And then when she was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, don't do that, just call me Micah. And I'm like, ha, imagine me call my Nigerian supervisor and name. You explain whether they gave birth to two of you in the same
For
day.
real.
But yeah,
You
but I
can
just
never
think,
try that in
yeah,
Nigeria. Like you have to call them professor, especially if they're
eh,
professors. They
the
want
the
that
rank
title.
is on the
Yeah.
head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's just cultural differences, and
Yeah.
usually exposure also blinds you to some
Mm-hmm.
of these things.
Yeah.
When you get that level of exposure,
Mm-hmm.
these things feel very, very insignificant. You
Mm-hmm.
start to see meaning in other things other
Yeah.
than titles, and they lose relevance,
Mm-hmm.
especially because your relevance is not in the titles,
Yeah.
actually in what the title is about. Not
Mm-hmm.
that if I don't call you prof, then it means
Mm-hmm.
I'm disrespected or you're no longer a
Yeah.
professor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but here I think they're just very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's cool. My lab mates
Yeah.
are really nice. Like I enjoy being lab mates with them.
Mm-hmm.
I like my supervisor. So it's been a very, very, very nice time
Yeah.
here so far, aside from the food.
Yeah. I don't think I can ever get used to the food as well. Like me, like when I was in Nigeria, I didn't really cook as much.
Yeah.
But here I've been forced to cook. Like every single meal I eat, I have to cook it because I
Okay.
can't buy food here because
Yeah.
I'm not used to it. My taste buds have not expanded.
Yeah. And it will
Hopefully they
take
expand one
time.
day. Yeah. So I know you've spoken about a couple of cultural differences, but like how did you settle into life at Cambridge? How did you find your community? And were there other like cultural differences you noticed like when you were trying to settle in?
Yeah. So, I had mentioned my friend
Mm-hmm.
that we're taking the same life choices
Yeah.
at that time. So we're going to come to Cambridge together.
Mm-hmm.
So I already knew that this was my friend for life.
Yeah.
So when we came, it was so easy.
Uh-huh.
And then when we came, I had started speaking to people already from back
Mm-hmm.
home.
Yeah.
And then so I came, like the person that even welcomed both of us, we had started speaking to him
Mm-hmm.
from Nigeria,
Yeah.
and then he brought us. It is very easy to like have that community, and
Mm-hmm.
immediately another Nigerian joined the group. So
Mm-hmm.
I had that like community of friends,
Yeah.
and then there was like the larger community from Mastercard
Mm-hmm.
scholars, and then we joined the Nigerian society
Mm-hmm.
and the African society. So
Mm-hmm.
there would always be avenues for you to have your community, like
Yeah.
except you're really very, very, very introverted and you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to have, but there's always the community,
Yeah.
especially as Nigerians or as
Mm-hmm.
black people
Yeah.
from Africa or from Nigeria in particular. So yeah, there's that community there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my friends, like my
Mm-hmm.
close friends.
Yeah.
I have my church friends.
Mm-hmm.
I have my Nigerian society friends.
Yeah.
I have my African society friends,
Mm-hmm.
and of course I have my Gates, my
Cambridge,
scholarship
yeah.
community friends, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have my lab friends. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like
Different pockets. And your
communities
college
scattered
friends as
everywhere.
well.
For college, let me not say I don't have any friend in college, and that's because I don't attend college events,
Okay.
and it's because I'm just very busy
Mm-hmm.
with my like schoolwork,
Yeah.
and my course is at my department is at Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
My college is in city center, St.
Mm.
John's. So the distance is so wide, so
Yeah.
far.
Mm-hmm.
By foot it's like 1 hour,
Mm.
10 minutes. By like if I was cycling, this is going to take me like 15 to 20 minutes. So it's
Okay.
like quite a lot of this
Yeah.
distance. So I was not always in college. You know how
Mm-hmm.
people go to college to read.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's usually around 7 p.m. I'm coming
Mm-hmm.
back at 6 p.m. I'm coming back. So I'm just coming
Yeah.
to come home. And then
Mm-hmm.
during the weekends, I stay at home or I go
Mm-hmm.
out with friends. So I've not made college friends, but that's another thing I should look
Yeah.
towards.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But there are just several avenues for you to find your people and
Mm-hmm.
your community.
Right. And what would you say the experience of being at Cambridge is like compared to your previous institutions?
Very different.
Mm-hmm.
Here feels
Yeah.
like a breath of fresh air in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that you're seeing a place that rewards excellence.
Mm-hmm.
A previous institution, it's not like they don't reward excellence, of
Mm-hmm.
course, because there's no way I would have graduated when they first started, they didn't reward excellence.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to fight through tooth and nail
Yeah.
to be rewarded,
Mm-hmm.
like in the sense that I would have issues with my course,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like we had issues where the entire department had like F, like
Mm-hmm.
total F, and of course it's a GS course. There's no way the department should have everybody failing. There should be a problem
Yeah.
somewhere. So issues like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then they take it back, and then there's a lot of like you literally have to fight for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I had a course in my 200 level where the result came out and I had a C, and then it was going to be so in my CA I had a 23 or
Mm-hmm.
25, I can't remember, and in my exam I had a 22.
Mm-hmm.
So and the CA was over 30 and I'm having 25 over 30, and then in
Mm-hmm.
exam I was having 22 over 70.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you as a lecturer coming, a student coming to complain, you should know that there's a problem.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even giving any hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I was chased out of the office and I was crying everywhere. I was like, oh, this is not my result. And people that would even hear my story, they were dismissing me. Oh, you had a C. Why are you shouting? Why are you
Mm-hmm.
crying? It's a C. People are here having F and then you're crying. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
people were like, oh, this guy agreed you. What did you read, Seth, that you're coming here to disturb us because you had a C?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew how I read for that exam.
Yeah.
I knew how I answered that question. I
Mm-hmm.
know sometimes students will say that they answered well, but
Mm-hmm.
in the real sense, they didn't answer well. But at least give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I was coming constantly to her office to
Mm-hmm.
explain these things to her, and she kept chasing me away.
Mm-hmm.
And the one time she listened to me, she told me that she marked it by herself and that there
Mm-hmm.
was not that nothing could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
This is her marking scheme. And then I told her that it could go wrong from recording. It may
Mm-hmm.
not be marking.
Yeah.
And it would have taken her nothing to get my script to
Mm-hmm.
actually like
Cross check.
let this poor small girl leave her
Mm-hmm.
office. I was crying. I was coming every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, oh no, that's she's sure that nothing. I should go. If I want to contest it, I should write to the department. And later when I was leaving, she said I should write to the VC. When they say this kind of things, is to discourage you
Yeah.
from they know that it may be a very, very
Stressful.
stressful task. And then I forgot about it. I prayed about it. I told
Mm-hmm.
God that I'm just going to leave this. My mom said I should leave it and focus on other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then my senior colleague came to me one day to tell me that he was going through the scripts because they had an issue of missing scripts from a receipt exam in their class.
Okay.
And then he was going through and then he saw my script and he said I had a 47.
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't believe I had a 47. Already that made me feel like really there was a mistake because how would he see I had a 47?
Yeah.
And then you recorded a 22
22.
or whatever you recorded in the exam. And then I went back to her
Mm-hmm.
because he told me that he told her because he knew he was vying for president at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him about this issue, and then he told me he told her that this girl had complained to him. So when I went back to her, she told me that oh that you're the person that I've corrected it. That don't worry, I've corrected all the incorrect results and all the
Okay.
errors. And I was at peace. I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. And then that entire semester passed. The next semester, the result on the portal was still
Did not
reflecting
change.
C. I went back to her, and this time she was even more hostile. She was like, oh, get out of my office. That you people come here, you write rubbish, and come here and tell me that this is not your result. And she get out of her. So I felt so sad. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I started to just give up because like a whole year has like passed now.
Yeah.
So I started to give up. Again, when God just wants to do something, he just that period, my exam officer she was collating my results.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to her office and I told her that there's this course I had a C.
Mm-hmm.
I explained all these things to her.
Yeah.
She was like that, do I have the number of the lecturer? I told her no, but I can get the number. She said I
Mm-hmm.
should get the number of the lecturer. I tried to get the number from our course rep,
Mm-hmm.
and then she called the woman. The woman wasn't picking, so she said that let's go there together because the office is not far. It's not so far away. It's
Yeah.
just a distance, that most people would not work for you.
Yeah.
Like they have things to do. One
Mm-hmm.
random girl coming to
Yeah.
tell them, and then she was like, "Oh, let's go." That she has
Mm-hmm.
been following my results since 100 level. This was now 200 level second semester or 300 level first semester. One of them.
Mm-hmm.
That she has been following my result and that she would really want to follow it up.
Yeah.
And then she followed me, and then they met each other and they knew each other.
Mm.
And they started gisting.
Wow.
And she was like, "Oh, she's the one." And then my exam officer was like, "Oh yeah, that's this really our next star. That
Mm-hmm.
she's doing well. That we're
Yeah.
rooting for her." And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "Okay." She now went and then brought my result,
Mm.
and I had a 73,
What?
and she gave me a 50, and they gave me a 55. Let me not say she
Wow.
because the problem was actually a recording
Okay.
issue.
Mm.
So she marked it correctly,
Mm-hmm.
but the recording, whoever recorded it recorded wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but my anger was not that. My anger was that it didn't have to take somebody else coming
Mm-hmm.
to me and somebody that you know
Yeah.
before you had to like show me. And it didn't take anything because I remember the last time I went to her to ask her for my script. She said that she doesn't know where the script is
Mm-hmm.
because like she just dismissed it. But
Yeah.
that period, it took her less than 5 minutes
Mm.
to actually go. So
And
the
retrieve
scripts are
the
even
script.
arranged according to the patterns. It was not going
Mm-hmm.
to be difficult for her
Yeah.
and then retrieve it. So I'm like, why did it take you this long?
Mm.
And there are many other issues. For me, I was lucky, and then maybe God wanted it that way, but I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky to have it resolved. There are many other people that never had it resolved.
Yeah.
And not just in that course, many other courses. I've had issues like that in many courses. Just that
Mm.
I'm always very pushy about
Mm-hmm.
things. Like I try to see to the end. Even if they say the man will flog me, I'll go there, let
Mm-hmm.
him pursue me, then I will
Yeah.
leave. So that's how I've been attending to most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And but there are many people that would not have that kind of energy
Yeah.
to pursue those things or even boldness to
Mm-hmm.
confront those things.
Yeah.
So I'll say in comparison to my school, and I'm not shading my school, but I think it's the issue with most federal universities in
Yeah. It's
Nigeria.
like a structural
Yeah, it's like a
problem.
structural problem. The lecturers don't want to feel that they've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then because it would cost you, like if I was to put myself in the lecturer's shoe, I know that students are mischievous. I
Mm-hmm.
know that a lot of times people don't agree when they fail. They would
Mm-hmm.
always want to blame something on something. But the least you can do is give them the benefit of the doubt. Like
Mm-hmm.
the least you can do is to clear their doubts. Okay,
Yeah.
you failed, Abby. Oh yeah, see, you failed. Be
Mm-hmm.
going home. Bye bye. You failed. Like it will take you nothing, absolutely nothing. Especially when
Yeah.
you see that this girl has been consistent. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
come once.
Mm.
I didn't come twice. I didn't come 3 times. I
Yeah.
came there consistently every day,
Mm-hmm.
crying.
Mm.
Like I
Yeah.
just had a conviction that this exam was simple. I
Mm-hmm.
had read for it to the point that I will I call it collapsed that day.
Mm.
That was why it made it more personal to me. And then at the end of the day,
Mm.
1 year later, the
Mm.
result was corrected
Wow.
because not because she actually agreed that there was a
Mm-hmm.
mistake, but because somebody had to follow me. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the issues we have
Yeah.
in many Nigerian institutions, and I wish somehow I just wish that there was something I could do about it because it's
Mm-hmm.
very, 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 very painful. People should get things because they got it
Deserve
on
it.
merit,
Yeah.
on oh yeah, I deserve it. In contrast to
Mm-hmm.
what is obtainable in our schools,
Yeah.
in our Nigerian schools, they're very smart. We have
Yeah.
smart lecturers, smart students. Students are
Mm-hmm.
very smart. That's why when people come here, they thrive
Yeah.
because we are smart people. But
Mm-hmm.
the environment is not enabling.
Yeah. It's
But
not.
here, that's for me, that's the wide contrast.
Mm-hmm.
There's an enabling environment here.
Mm-hmm.
The environment, the structure is in a way that it allows you thrive, it allows you learn, it allows you
Mm-hmm.
make mistake. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't punish you for learning.
Yeah.
Doesn't Nobody's out there to say, "Oh, I'm not going to take your script." The kind of technology I was
Mm.
exposed to back in school is very different. Like here, even things as simple as maybe like a flow cytometer
Mm.
is very different. I
Yeah.
started learning things all over and all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's different. Infrastructure is different
Yeah.
and all that. But yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the system here is more like welcoming to like
Yeah.
having conversations with your lecturers as opposed to them just dictating
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
course is about.
exactly.
Like they're open to questions. They even sometimes have sessions after the classes where you can ask them questions and just get more clarifications.
Yeah.
just so you understand the course better. It's like they want you to succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's built in a way for you to succeed, not to
Yeah.
fail. And it's a problem when you're not succeeding for them.
Mm-hmm.
But back home, so for some lecturers, it's
It's an
actually an
achievement for
achievement for you
yeah.
not to succeed. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that's proof that this course was really good.
Mm-hmm.
That the course was good to the point that people are failing. It's not what we saw with JAM. So it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, this is the
Yeah.
measure of how tight and how regulated it is
Mm-hmm.
because people are failing. Like
Yeah.
it's very crazy.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. But hopefully it improves in the future. The final
Mm.
question I just have is around um, what's one piece of advice you give to someone that's looking to apply to the Gates Cambridge Scholarship?
Okay. So my best apply very cliche and very motivational. I don't like motivational speeches, aspire to
Mm-hmm.
perspire, but
Yeah.
that's where it starts from.
Mm-hmm.
So my best advice would be to try,
Mm-hmm.
give it a shot.
Yeah.
Don't like sell yourself short. Don't
Mm-hmm.
shut the door on yourself. My advice would be as long as you see that you meet the minimum requirement,
Mm-hmm.
then give it your shot. Of
Yeah.
course, it's different when they say they want you to have this grade and you don't have the grade and you
Mm-hmm.
apply. You know
Yeah.
that okay, they've stated what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you have the minimum requirement,
Mm-hmm.
give it a shot. Don't sell yourself short.
Mm-hmm.
Try at my popular quote. I don't know who quoted it, so I've made it my own quote. Is that I'll try, and if I fail, I'll try again. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
keep telling myself, especially that period when I was
Yeah.
getting rejection. So I
Mm-hmm.
would always say, I'll try, and if I fail, I'll try again,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know what could be
Mm-hmm.
until you've tried.
Yeah.
You'd always say, "Oh, I wish I could do this," but you
Mm-hmm.
never know if you can actually do it.
Yeah.
Like I would never have known that I could study in Oxford or in
Mm-hmm.
Cambridge
Mm-hmm.
and be where I am if I hadn't like tried.
Yeah.
So it's better you try and
Mm-hmm.
you don't get it, and then you try and don't get it,
Yeah.
so that when you're telling your story, it's like, oh, I tried this, but it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Not that, oh, I wish I could have done this, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it. So yeah, my advice would always be to try.
Mm-hmm.
The worst that would happen, that's the worst case scenario, is that you get rejection.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And then the best case scenario is that you
You get a fully funded offer
you
to
get a fully
Cambridge.
funded offer,
Yeah.
and regardless, for me, you get a rejection, but again, in
Mm-hmm.
the process, you learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
You learn with every new application you make. Like for me, that was also what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
You get better, you
Mm-hmm.
get more clarity on what
Yeah.
exactly mattered and what should you even start to sieve out things that
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't matter
Yeah.
because you've thought about these things carefully. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what you could also get from each application you make. You get more clarity, even if you
Yeah.
don't get. I know it's motivational, but that's the truth. I'm sounding
Yeah.
like aspire to perspire, but
Yeah.
actually now looking back, at the time I was applying, it didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like if I had heard this advice I'm saying now, I'd be like, this
Mm-hmm.
girl, shut up. That's
Yeah.
not true. But now that I'm
Mm-hmm.
here looking back, I think
Mm-hmm.
that the culmination of all these rejections and
Mm-hmm.
then understanding that, having to have this interview and fail, you get better.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, okay, I sounded like this. I shouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
said it this way. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have, brought it this way. I should have done
Mm-hmm.
this better. You get better. So that's the idea that you get to know more,
Mm-hmm.
but then you got a rejection. And
Yeah.
then the best case scenario is that you're here and then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I gave it my best shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say just apply.
Yeah. You never know. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Yeah.
just give it a shot. Don't self-reject. Yeah.
Oh.
Kamsi, it's been a pleasure having you on the channel. Where can people connect with you? They want to reach out to you.
I think my LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Okay, yeah, we're serious over here.
Sorry. If what you see on LinkedIn doesn't match what I am, I'm sorry. On LinkedIn, I'm prim and proper. So I think my LinkedIn is a
It's
good place to
better.
connect
Okay.
to me because I
Yeah.
always, every day I check my LinkedIn.
Okay. So I'll leave her LinkedIn on the screen. It's
Olivia
okay.
Kamsi Mokas. It's just
So,
my full name.
yeah.
Yeah. And then my Instagram is there
Mm-hmm.
too. This
Yeah.
period I'm busy, so if I don't respond, but I will definitely respond. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for coming on.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.